Welcome back everybody, I hope you're having a beautiful day. It's a wonderful day today because we're reading some more Entitled Parents. We're doing a full-length episode to start with, and then after that we'll have a compilation. So don't worry, there's going to be a brand new Entitled Parents episode in this, and let's get right into it. Enjoy, guys. Entitled parent put their kid in my car to say hi to my dog. Yesterday, my dog and I were road tripping back from spending Thanksgiving with family. A few hours in, we stopped to stretch our legs and get some water. Pulled into a rest stop with plenty of parking, not very busy. After I let him out to stretch, he was sitting in the back with the windows open, while I pulled up directions in the driver's seat. For context, it's an SUV with a 3-seater bench in the back. My dog was sitting directly in the middle. Did not have his head out of the window. All of a sudden, I see a toddler being lifted into and through the open back window by their parent to pet my dog. The child's body was 50% into my vehicle's open window. This wasn't like a hand next to the window to get him to come and sniff it. The entitled parent is laughing, as is the other entitled parent holding a younger baby standing next to the parent that's currently trapezing their toddler into my car. They didn't ask or say anything. They just laughed and stuck their toddler into my open window. I was so shocked that I gave an audible gasp, and I just turned around and gave them a confused sort of annoyed look. It took at least 5 solid seconds for them to even acknowledge my reaction, and then pulled their kid out through the window, never apologized, and just walked away while still laughing. I have a recognizable, friendly giant breed dog that kids typically want to pet. Luckily, he's already used to having to interact with parents and young kids. This scenario was just so unsafe to me though. These parents have no idea if my huge dog is unfriendly, and they're putting their kid in an extremely unsafe situation, let alone the rudeness of just entering somebody else's vehicle. In what remote world was this okay to do? I wish I wasn't so shocked and I said something. Wow, that's so rude. And they didn't even say anything, especially when they made eye contact with you and they still didn't. And to be laughing as well, how bloody rude. I can't believe they did that without even saying anything. Even if you did say something, it probably would have made it even more infuriating, because there's no way they would have taken it seriously. Like, there's no way that if they're acting like this that you'd be able to get through to them. The next one is called "My Parents Want to Give My Sister the Earrings That My Grandma Left for Me." This story is so weird. When I, 27 female, was 20 years old, I was in a relationship, friends with benefits situation with a guy, now 40 male. It was messy. We were on and off for almost 5 years. He was always clear that he wasn't ready for a relationship, and I was always clear that I was madly in love with him. Every time I got tired of the situation and wanted to leave, somehow he convinced me to stay. Because love is free, we have so much time together. He wasn't ready for commitment. I asked advice to my sister, now 42 female, and she gave me some crappy advice, like make him compromise and leave stuff at his place and basically turn him into a boyfriend until it was too late for him to say no. I never managed to do that because I wanted him to love me as much as I loved him, not trap him. During the last night I spent at his place, he said he wanted to try something more serious, talked about some dates he planned, etc., only to ghost me forever. It was hard. This was the first person I loved and he treated me like crap. 6 months passed and my sister came home. We both lived with our parents, saying that she wanted to introduce her new boyfriend. She'd have tons of boyfriends, but she said that this was the one. It was a dinner only with my parents at our home, so I was excluded and expected to just sort of chill in my room. The day came, and while they were dining, I ordered pizza. I came downstairs only to find the guy I was with 6 months prior dining with my parents and my sister. I was shocked, but I paid for my pizza and I went to my room again to cry. After dinner was over, I confronted my sister in front of our parents and begged her to not be with him, to be loyal to me, her little sister. There was no way she didn't know who he was. I showed her pictures of him, his social media, where he worked, and she even knew where he lived. They never met because he didn't want to meet my family and never introduced his, but she knew who he was and she excluded me from that dinner because she knew. She said they met by chance after we stopped seeing each other. Oh god, this is awful. What sort of a sister would do that? She knew about how hard that rupture was. She knew how painful it was to not have even a closure. He just stopped replying, not even blocking me, just left me there wondering. After 5 years, she knew that during those 6 months I was still hurting. I know how it was my fault. I was too naive and I thought that if I stayed long enough, he'd be ready for the relationship I wanted and would learn to love me. Yeah, stupid, I know. She defended herself, saying that it was a coincidence and chemistry was there. She loved him and she wasn't going to lose the love of her life. Oh my god, find somebody else. This is awful to OP. This stuff only happens once in a lifetime. When I was in my early 20s, I would believe that. However, now I know there there are 8 billion people in this world. There's no one love of your life. You can find the love of your life multiple times if you look for it. My parents sided with her and said that I should get over it since we never had a real relationship. What? 1.5 years had passed. I'd been excluded from multiple family gatherings because he would be around, and my family thinks I will bring negative vibes since I'm still bitter about everything. I have no feelings for him, but I feel betrayed by my sisters and my parents. He's just a piece of crap in my eyes now. Yeah, 100%. My sister is now 6 months pregnant. Due to her age, she had been extremely pampered by my parents. She still lives at home and is going to move in with him in maybe 2 months after the baby's born. Then they're going to marry. In my culture, it is normal that if a woman gives birth, they move back or stay with her mum so the mum will help with the baby for the first few months. A week ago, my sister's friend made a surprise baby shower and I happened to be home and I tried to talk to them. I don't know why. Maybe because my sister and I were close before and I'm sad we're no longer friends. But her friends acted like I wasn't even there and only replied to me with, yeah, no, or silence, as if I was the one that created this mess, or I was a homewrecker, or I tried to seduce my sister's man. I was planning to move already. I was saving money, but after that I left immediately to a friend's house. I'm in the process of finding my own place. 2 days ago, I received a call from my parents asking me to have a talk. I went to their house and they informed me that the diamond earrings my grandma left me will be given to my sisters. Those earrings have been in my family for 4 generations, and before my grandma died, she said the earrings will be mine and my sister will receive a gold necklace. Grandma trusted my parents with the earrings. There was no will or anything. She just asked them to give it to me when I was mature enough to appreciate/take care of a family heirloom. Now my parents think since my sister is getting married first and is having grandma's first grandchild, my sister should have it. I'm so mad now. They're robbing me of something that my grandma left to me. I don't think my parents are evil. I think they were too worried that my sister wouldn't marry due to her age. Again, in my culture, a single woman in her 40s is something to worry for her family. And now that she is forming a family, they want to reward her. But I was the closest to my grandma. She made it clear that the earrings will be mine, not my sister's. Not the first one to marry or have a child, but mine. After 2 years of being excluded in favor of my sisters, I gave the ultimatum to my parents that they give the earrings to me as my grandma intended, or I'm going to cut them from my life forever. Not going to lie, the idea of cutting my family off is too painful, but I feel they already made me and still makes me so wrong. I don't want them in my life anymore. I feel a little shallow fighting over this, but those are the only things my granddad left and they're not entitled to them. Yeah, definitely. Oh, that was so sad. They've been treating you awfully and excluding you from stuff because your sister is dating your bloody ex. Ew. And the parents siding with them as well. And then on top of that, the stuff with the earrings, they do not deserve you. I can't believe how sad that is. Yeah, if you do decide to cut them off, they completely had that coming. Like, what the hell do they expect if they treat you like this? Yeah, like this comment says, cut them off. They essentially have already cut you off as they're excluding you from any gathering that your ex will be attending. How exactly are they there for you? Yeah, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry. That's so awful. I'd be taking those earrings and never talking to them again. The next one is called, a mum wants me to change my decorations for her kids. Hi everyone, I want to give some context. I'm a high school student who goes on the school bus every morning. Last year we had a bus driver that we all loved, but she got moved and our new driver is something. After Halloween, I chose the Monday after Halloween as the day that I put up my Christmas inflatables. They are mine, so I'm responsible for putting them up and taking them down. No big deal. The Thursday after Halloween, my bus driver stops me asking if I can put my decorations up and says that she heard about them from another driver. My father had some yard work he still wanted to do, so I told her not yet and that I would soon. She seemed mad and she told her kids, the mean girl won't put up her decorations. I'm a trans male, he, him, and she knows this, and then turned to me and said, look how sad my kids are. I ignored her. After I put them up that Monday, I got on the bus in the morning. The driver said, thank you for putting the decor up for my kids. They love it. I looked at her and I told her I didn't do it for her kids. She got angry again. I had 2 more inflatables I put up last week. One I just got recently. She told me when I got on the morning after, can you please take down the gnome? My kids don't like it. Maybe replace it with a penguin. They like penguins. I told her in a respectful tone that I was not taking it down and that I didn't have a penguin. She told me to buy one. I said, unless I'm gifted one, I'm not buying any more inflatables this year. She got so mad at me. She told me I'm so rude and that her kids didn't like my gnome, so I should accommodate them. I'm not bending over backwards for her crappy kids who laugh at me and scream and cry all the way through the bus ride when they don't get what they want. Edit, this blew up. Hi everyone, yes, I am considering investing in another gnome. Thank you all for your advice. Update, this morning is my last day of school before Thanksgiving break because the American school system sucks, and I was also also going to turn on my inflatables this morning. Unfortunately, it got windy, so I had to turn them off because I don't want to damage them. I have another inflatable gnome on the way, even though I wasn't supposed to buy any more this year. It's a small gnome. I've got a bigger one that I want, but unfortunately, they're kind of expensive. I'm seeing some people say that this is fake, and I wish. I heard from the kids on her old route that she was a real biatch to them, and one of her kids actually slapped one of the middle schoolers, and she blamed the middle schooler, who wasn't even interacting with her kids. I asked her about her old route before this incident. I genuinely wish this didn't happen, but it did. People have had problems with my decor before, but never to this level. Oh, that's so frustrating, but I'm so happy that you got another gnome. Like, oh, what's that? Your kid would rather a penguin and not a gnome? It looks like I'm gonna get another gnome. That was such a good move. This person is like the epitome of an entitled parent. Like, what do you mean that OP here should just put all of the stuff up that you want? And the audacity to even say that. Like, hey, this isn't about your kids, okay? Don't care if they don't like the gnomes and if they'd prefer a penguin. Yes, so frustrating. The next one is called, my mum wants to check my bank account and I can't really say no. So I, 18 female, opened my own bank account a few months ago under my own name. Before I got my first paycheck, my mum told me that she'd like to check my purchases and how much money I spent on the account. Another problem is that I do have to give her some money for other reasons. I bought a new phone second hand, and when my mum asked me how much I spent on it, I lied and I said that it was 300 euros, but it was actually 420. I earn 1400 a month, and yesterday she asked me how much money I have left, and I said that I have like 800 left, which is true because I had to pay my mum 60 that I owed her. I also used the money to buy things that I really need. I wanted to buy the important things now, do that, and I won't have to worry about my second paycheck. The problem is that I sell old clothes online because I need as much money as possible to move out of this sickening household, but when I sent the packages to my clients, I was too lazy to go to the bank and withdraw the money for the post, so I just used my card. Yesterday, my mum wanted to see my bank account and asked me if I got the statement for my account because I tried to get it, but it says that I have no statement. She doesn't believe me though. I didn't want to show her my online banking, so I blocked it. I feel so uncomfortable showing her what I spend my money on because it's my privacy. I also don't understand why she feels so entitled to know. It's my money and I worked hard for it, but the problem is that my mum is a huge drama queen. Saying no will only give us more trouble, but I also don't want to explain myself because I don't need to. I just don't want any trouble because I'm tired. I wanted to rush to the bank and see if I can get the statement and hide them. Today's my grandma's birthday. My mum told me to gift her some money. I thought about getting another statement once I withdraw the money for my grandma so that my mum will finally leave me alone. This situation is stressing me out a lot. I woke up anxiously because I hate having to worry about things that aren't actually a problem. I don't know why my parents make me feel bad for spending my own money on things that I really need. It's too much stress for me. Thankfully, they don't have my account details and they don't have any access unless I let them, but I'm scared that they might force me to do so. I just wanted to leave me the hell alone. Right, so why do they need to see it? They want to make sure that you're not wasting money or something? Like they just want to see it? Yeah, like the top comment says, ask to see her bank account and everything she spends. When she says no, say no. If she does kick off, then ignore it. You're an adult now. Yeah, that's right. Are they going to be controlling over you forever? Oh, that's such a frustrating situation because, yeah, like you said, it doesn't even need to happen. Yeah, and on that note, I'm going to read a couple of wholesome memes before the compilation starts. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. This is what I imagine when somebody tells me they're studying food engineering. Oh my god, that's so cute. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but also I feel like I've got a bit of an idea. That's so funny. My organs watching me drink water. Aww. I'm so proud of you. Oh my god, the substance that we need. Thank you for this. You made our day. I'm sure they really appreciate it. This man was forced to give his dog to Humane Society due to a lengthy hospital stay. This nurse went to the shelter and adopted his dog. She brings him to visit daily and is going to return him as soon as the man's released. Oh, that's so cute. What a legend. And yeah, they don't have to do that, but they did. And that's so lovely. And on that beautiful note, it's compilation time. Thank you for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed the compilation. I'll see you tomorrow, guys. My entitled neighbor wanted to join us for dinner. My husband wasn't home and it was just me with my 2 children and my cousin who was visiting. It was raining outside and my neighbor rang the doorbell. Let's call her Elaine. She said that she was locked out of her house and needed to wait for her husband. I don't know this neighbor very well. We recently purchased our home. I said that she could wait in the entryway of our home. There was a bench and she could play with her phone. She asked if she could join us for dinner and I said I don't know her very well and my husband isn't home. She said that she doesn't mind. Wow, what? I said, but I mind because it's a safety issue. She said that she feels safe and that I shouldn't worry. I said, I don't feel safe. She got quiet for 30 seconds and said that she's an occupational therapist and a healthcare professional, so we should feel fine. I said, no, she can wait in the hall or she can leave. I'll bring her a bowl of food. She was on the phone for 3 hours and yelling, saying how we're horrible people for not letting her in. She poured the bowl of soup I gave her into my kid's shoes in the shoe rack opposite the bench she was sitting on in the hallway. I can't believe she thought she was entitled to come into a stranger's home. What? Is that real? Pouring the soup that you gave them, which you didn't need to give them, into your kid's shoes? What's wrong with people? Oh my god. Edit, the hallway in my home is 12 feet long and has 2 closets, a long shoebox and a bench. The hallway and entryway is the entrance into my home. There's a door leading into the house at the end of the hall and it locks. This door opens into a greater hall that separates the kitchen and the living room. The door leading into the actual home part of the house is always locked, and I locked it and I didn't let her in there. She wanted to go inside and eat in the kitchen with my kids and cousin. I don't know her very well. I did give her food and I allowed her to come inside the hallway entryway bit because it was raining. We were in the kitchen and we heard her on the phone for hours and didn't know what to do. We recently moved into this neighborhood. We waited for her to leave and we went into the hall, saw the mess that she made by pouring the soup into the kids' shoes. The shoes were washed immediately and the shoebox was wiped down. If I had known her better and or if my husband was home, I would have invited her inside. Holy, not going to be letting them in again or anywhere near your house. And also, what do you mean they were there for 3 hours? That's so long for them to just sit there. If this happened to me, I feel like I wouldn't even be able to believe that it actually did happen. It sounds like a weird dream or something. A neighbor asked me when I'm cleaning an apartment. First time posting, also English isn't my first language. My male 37 upstairs neighbor was found after 3 days lying on the floor of his apartment. Oh god, an ambulance took him away. I heard the banging on his door. I found out what happened and I spent the next 3 days finding out which neighbor had the spare key and then rescued his dog, a sweet 18-year-old Jack Russell. So far it's been 3 weeks that I've been taking care of his dog. Bought food, showered her, 4 walks a day, the works. I live in a Hasidic Jewish neighborhood, which means that very few people have dogs. No one else would have taken her, but she's very recognizable in the neighborhood. An older woman from the building next door asked me if this dog was my sick neighbor's. I said yes. She then asked me when I'm going to clean his apartment. I asked her why doesn't she? She got all flustered at me. My sick neighbor is a widower without kids. He doesn't really know how to treat a dog, but he loves her and spoils her like a child. He's a lovely man, but clearly with problems I won't go into. His apartment was a biohazard. Edit and update. This story isn't to complain about my community. Most communities are more complex than what they seem, and while I would not like to live the way that ultra-orthodox live, I have no problem with them living how they wish. I wouldn't want to be Amish either. I do have a problem with their political leaders, but we can live in disagreement. Please don't make this a race thing. I am not an immigrant here. The lady was just assuming things because I was helping. Apparently my grandpa was a doctor. My neighbor's still in rehab. Doggo is still with us until his pop is better. Right, okay, so they assumed that it was your responsibility or something. Good on you for taking care of the dog. I'm a bit confused whether they're entitled or just sort of confused. But yeah, good on you for making sure the dog's okay. Entitled person tries to skip the entire WillCo line because he just needs to pick up his tickets real quick with a Starbucks bonus. I think about this guy every now and then and giggle. I was in the WillCo line at a Renaissance festival a few years back. It was before they had an online cell phone ticket system. So if you bought online, you had to get your tickets at WillCo. This led to a very long line at WillCo. I was standing in line to pick ours up and a man walked up and was standing next to me, looking at the counter and then kind of tried to get in front of me. I pointed out that the line was behind me and he said, "Oh yeah, but I just have to grab my WillCo tickets real quick. It won't take long." I stared him dead in the eye and said, "Yes, we all do. That's why we're in the WillCo line picking up tickets." He said again, "Well, I'll be real quick. They've just left it WillCo for me." I again repeated, "Right, this is the WillCo line. All of us have tickets at WillCo, where the line I'm standing in has formed. If you want to get your tickets, you need to go to the back of it." He threw his hands down in a huff and walked to the back of the line. I thought of him again recently when I was in the drive-thru at Starbucks. Some guy in a Mercedes convertible with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth pulled up going the wrong way on the other side of the car in front of me that was at the window. He asked the customer to ask the person handing out coffee to give the customer his mobile order and then pass it to him through their window so he didn't have to wait in line or get out of his car to get it. Thankfully, the Starbucks employee told him to kick rocks and wait in the drive-thru or come in. Why are people like this? I don't know, but it's so infuriating. Like, it was infuriating to read about this, let alone be in that situation. We do need a t-shirt t-shirt that says the audacity on it. The audacity of some people. Our neighbors took our fence while we were on a road trip. Perhaps there's a better subreddit for this post, but this is the first one I thought to go to. Well, the title explains most of this, but I'm fuming right now, so I gotta rant this one out. So, we've had issues with our attached neighbors from the moment that we bought our house. Originally, it was just 60-something female and her 18-something male grandson. The day we moved in, we tried to make small talk and introduce ourselves. The woman was dropping hints that the old owners used to bake her goodies all the time and she missed it. That's a bit rude, isn't it? Kind of insinuating that we should be like them because she deserved to be treated like a princess. The grandson introduced himself as the worst person in town. What an intro. So afterwards, we just tried to keep a friendly distance and stay out of their way. Suddenly, after about a week of living here, they began screaming at odd hours, blasting music and banging on the walls. The police were at their house for domestic disputes monthly due to the woman calling the cops on her grandson. We've lived here for over 2 years now, fixing up our house and making it beautiful and adding value to it. Up until this point, we've let them have their problems because it's not like we have kids to worry about protecting. It's just my partner and I in our mid-20s. Fast forward to last month, one evening after it got dark, we heard what we thought were gunshots right in our backyard. Mind you, we live in a downtown suburb with an older person facility right behind our house, so we were a little concerned. We have cameras that we installed just to be safe, so we checked them. The grandson and his friends were sitting in their yard talking about shoot another round. They'll just think it's fireworks, and that's a 45 round. Unfortunately, it was dark and we couldn't see them shoot it, but the camera picked up the sound of them shooting off 9 rounds, so we naturally called the cops. The kids then left and the cops couldn't prove that anyone was on the premises with a gun, so they let it go. In the beginning of August, the woman decided to let her daughter, sister-in-law, and their children move in with them, for who knows what reason. Before this, they'd only come to visit on holidays, and at one time they left their infant child on the street in a carrier for over half an hour until I knocked and let them know that she was out there. None of my business, but from there on the screaming and yelling got worse, and this time with crying kids in the mix. I had half a mind to call CPS, but I've heard the awful things that happen to kids in the system, so I couldn't bring myself to do it. This month we were fortunate enough to go on a road trip to see some cool places and visit family. We left the end of August and we were checking our cameras when we had service, which was not much. One day we get a call from our unattached neighbor saying that our attached neighbors were building a really ugly shed with spare planks from who knows where. We tried not to worry too much because up to this point their crappy shed wasn't our problem. Besides being an eyesore in the neighborhood, we just enjoyed the rest of our trip and let it go. Occasionally checking to make sure they weren't in our yard or anything, since it's nicely fenced in and gated. Didn't catch anything on camera, but them building their crappy shed. We arrived home a few hours ago to find that they dug out and stole a part of our fence, metal post and chain link fence, to create a back fence and gate for their yard. This left huge holes in our back parking area that my partner almost tripped and fell into. They also tied it into our fence incorrectly, pulling our fence lopsided, basically damaging it. Unfortunately, our camera didn't catch them taking our fence. It was just in our yard in one frame and then in theirs the next. We want to press charges, but we aren't sure how to go about it. We checked our seller's disclosure stating that the previous owners of our house had to put the fence in, so we know it was our fence that they took. I'm so livid, and I know yelling at them won't fix it, but how can you be so entitled that you can't even buy your own chain link fence, but instead you steal your neighbors when they aren't home? Thank you for reading this rant. Entitled people suck. Yeah, oh my god, they 100% do suck. They left a comment here that says, as of where we stand after speaking to the, is it bureau or borough? I'm not good with words, guys. A few hours ago, it seems that the fence is on the easement, and they'll be facing retaliation for taking it out without permission. Also, they did not get a permit for their shed, and they will either have to pay the permit fee or remove it within a certain amount of time. I feel like we won this a little, but also still concerned for our safety, considering that we were the ones that brought up the shed being unpermitted. Even if we got some reimbursement from homeowners, we'd probably do the work ourselves regardless, so I don't know if it will cost as much since labor wouldn't be an issue. Yeah, wow, I can't even imagine living next to somebody like this, or living next to people like this. That's so infuriating. Entitled siblings demand that I help them move. My sibling is moving out of their current apartment into another one. They first loudly stated that I don't need anyone to help me move, but after a while they kept calling me, complaining that it's so much to do and whining that no one is helping. I just said, knowing fully well what would come next. They asked, you don't want to help me? Which I declined. They said okay in a sad tone. A day later, my mum calls me and said that my sibling is so sad and disappointed that I won't help them. I couldn't care less. They never helped me move either or even visited me for an evening. I did help when they moved into that apartment and several times later with my car, even when they previously called it ugly AF, but then it's good enough to haul stuff because it's a big truck. They also lightly insulted me a day before and much more times over the year. I even thought about taking a break from our relationship. Now they expect me to help them move? No, you don't get to threaten people and make fun of their belongings and still get help from them. Yeah, I hope the wholesome memes are good today. We're gonna need it after this. Entitled mum demands I give up my airline seat because her child deserves it more. So, I'm on a 5-hour flight for a work conference. I booked a window seat because I like to lean against the wall to sleep. I board the plane, settle in, and everything seems fine. Then enters entitled mum, EM and her kid EK. Entitled mum staring at me. You're in our seats. Me, I don't think so. This is 23A, right? Entitled mum, yes, but my son really wants to look out the window. Oh my god, what? Me, I booked this seat specifically, sorry. Entitled mum, well, my son has never flown before and he should get to experience it. You should give your seat to him. He deserves it more. That's not how that works. People are so annoying. Me, I understand, but I also paid for this seat. At this point, the flight attendant FA comes over to see what the commotion's about. Flight attendant, is everything all right here? Entitled mum, no, he won't let my son sit by the window. Flight attendant, ma'am, the seats are assigned and he's in the correct seat. Entitled mum, this is outrageous. My child deserves this experience. Flight attendant, I can't change assigned seats. You'll have to sit in your assigned seats. Entitled mum huffs and puffs but finally takes her assigned middle seat next to me, muttering about how some people are so selfish. 5 hours sitting next to entitled... Yeah, I was about to say, do you have to sit next to them? 5 hours sitting next to entitled mum was not fun, but I held onto my window seat. My comfort was worth more than her entitlement. So yeah, that's my experience. I can't believe people like this actually exist. Wow, me neither. That's so bad. They genuinely feel like their kid deserves it. For what reason? Like, what's the logic here? It doesn't make any sense. Well, if you felt like they deserved it, maybe you should have paid for it. But yeah, that's right. How is this real? How is a person being like, you know what? This is a very reasonable thing to say. I'm gonna try and get somebody out of a seat that they paid for because I feel like it should go to my kid. No, okay. Entitled guy demanded my oh my god, another one. Entitled guy demanded my window seat for an 11-hour flight to Cairo. This was a while back, but an excellent example of sheer entitlement. Flight from New York to Cairo. The seat configuration was 3 rows of seats, 2 window and aisle on each side with 4 or 5 middle seats in the center. I had a window over a wing. I chose the seat with sleep in mind many months in advance. While I do frequently travel, I'm not going to pretend I often jet away to Egypt. So this vacay was very planned out. I was settled into my seat when my aisle mate approached his and asked if I'd be willing to switch with his wife so the two of them could sit together. The two of them seemed to be with a group of similar age travelers. It appeared to me based on chatter that it may have been some kind of group tour. Knowing the industry and that organizers may be negligent in seat assignments, I was absolutely willing to consider a swap if the seat was comparable. So naturally, I asked where his wife's seat was. He pointed and she waved at me from the center of the middle seats. No, sorry, I'm gonna keep my seat, was my response. Instead of switching out with a middle seat person who I'm sure would have been delighted to take an aisle so we could sit next to his wife, he sits down in his seat and started trying to argue with me how the view is bad anyway since it's over the wing. I won't see anything since it's mostly overnight and dark, etc. I just replied that I plan to sleep against it and I decline again. I'm trying to be pleasant, I'm a pleaser, and I'm stuck next to this guy. He continues to bug me like the mosquito he may have been in a former life and asked me, if you had a husband, wouldn't you want to sit with him? At this point, I'm totally irritated. I stated that I do have a husband, and if my husband and I were traveling together, I'd not only ensure that our seats were assigned together, but if they weren't, I'd give up my aisle and go sit with my spouse in the middle. He then shut up with direct comments, but grumbling persisted throughout the entire flight, just not to my face as he pretended to ignore my existence. Perfect ending. He was still grumbling when we deplaned. No way. Oh, come on. I know I'm being super rude and unreasonable, but just do what I say because the whole world revolves around me, okay? Like, as frustrating as these posts are, they're so fun to read. I think I'm genuinely addicted. Entitled Random thinks I'm his secretary. So this one was a few years back. Some people I knew from back home were using my phone number for various things at quick loan places. I changed my number and I sorted it out. 2 years after getting my new number, I'm still getting random calls and messages for the guy who previously had that number. Crappy job offers, hookup offers, random requests for favors, which was annoying, but I just kept saying wrong number and carrying on with my day. One day I'm chilling with a friend of mine and I get a phone call from a number I don't know. I answer it and it turns out to be the guy that previously had the number, and this mother flipper has the nerve to start trying to quiz me about who phoned for him, like I was writing it all down. He actually got mad at me for not somehow informing him about the job offers. I told him I was not his secretary and to get off his lazy ass and tell these people he changed the numbers before hanging up on him, promptly changed my number again afterwards, and wow, was it nice not answering at least one message a week. Yeah, what? And the fact that they're not apologizing to you for this being such a pain is hilarious. Like, buddy, you've got it all wrong. I shouldn't be apologizing to you. You should be apologizing to me. Yeah, that's so unbelievable. Let me know down below if you're enjoying the episode so far, guys. To say I'm enjoying this is an understatement. Entitled friend messes around and finds out. I've known Colette for over a decade. She has kids from a previous relationship and is one of those obnoxious parents, the kind who honestly believe that her toddlers are perfectly behaved angels who can be taken anywhere and never cause any upset. She's completely delusional and thinks that her kids never cry or have emotions other than sunshine and maturity beyond their years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but kids who are like that tend to be that way due to fear of consequences, painful consequences. Colette isn't the greatest human, but she also doesn't abuse her kids. She's actually on the other end of the spectrum and spoils them rotten. Earlier this year, she married a single dad. This did put a strain on our relationship because I wouldn't listen to her badmouth her stepson, who I'll call Caleb, age 7. Caleb is on the spectrum and has some issues with impulse control and emotional regulation. He's in therapy for that, but Colette hates him regardless. I could endure listening to her delusions about how perfect she thinks her kids are, but shut her down for the nasty things she tried to say about Caleb. What remained of our friendship broke entirely a few months ago. That was when Caleb's mum said that she needed a break and his dad needed to step up. Colette lost her mind. I'll let your imagination fill in the blank for all of the ableist and hateful trash that she vomited. I told her that she should have known this was a possibility. Isn't it obvious that if you date someone with minor children, that you have to be prepared that there could be a full-time responsibility? Colette screamed that of course she knew, but that only applied if Caleb's mother died. It wasn't fair that she ruined Colette's fairy tale romance where her new husband stepped in as dad for her kids, and Caleb was someone else's problem. Oh god. I heard through the grapevine that Colette is getting divorced. Apparently she told her husband that her kids are perfect and his are not, and he has to choose the better family that they created, her 2 kids and him, or the quote-unquote out-of-control brat even his ex doesn't want anymore. And of course he chose Caleb. Knowing Colette, she's probably angry at everyone but the person who actually causes the mess, herself. God, that's awful. I know the word toxic gets used a lot, but people like this are so toxic, and it's so good that they're not putting up with it either. Cousin abandoned my niece at my house while I was camping. Over the weekend, my husband and I went on a camping trip before summer season. With its glorious warm weather was officially over, we weren't at home and had no cell reception where we were. We left on Thursday the 7th of September and returned on Monday, September 11. While we were away, my cousin left my niece still strapped to her car seat outside my house door on Friday, September 8, and sent me some text messages. Remember, I had no cell reception where I was camping. I would never have known while I was gone. I saw the missed messages after I returned home. It wasn't a request to ask if I can help her, it was a simple message notifying me that she left my niece in front of my door along with a bag with her stuff for the weekend. She didn't ask me beforehand if I could babysit. There was no possible way for me to know. Even if I did know, I would have still declined unless it was a medical emergency in the family, and they had no other choice. I live in a rural area where everyone is on 30-acre plots of land, so no one knew that my niece was there. I had no clue, and my neighbors had no clue. My niece was abandoned in front of my door until Saturday noon when my parents came by to drop off my parcels that were delivered to their house. That's when they saw my niece. My parents called my aunt and had her come pick her up. I can only assume that my parents, my aunt and my grandmother scolded my cousin for leaving my niece at my door. When I got home, all I saw was the initial message telling me that my niece was dropped off at my place, then a string of very rude text messages and voice messages from my cousin calling me irresponsible for leaving my niece outside and endangering her. Oh my god, that's not your fault, because what if the coyotes in my area attacked the helpless infant? I'm just so frustrated. Oh my god, I bet you are. That's revolting. And the fact that they blamed you for this, you're the one who left them there. Yeah, 1,000,000% this comment. Report those parents. That's nuts. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked. I don't really know what to say about this. That's so bad. And the fact that they blamed you for this, like I hope their kid is safe. My 24 female mum demanded to be present during my gynecology exam and barged aged in. Edit, sorry for the confusion. I'm 24 currently and my mum is in her early 50s. My mum knew about my appointment and that I was going to be examined. Clothing would be removed. She wanted to accompany me last minute for support and I couldn't argue with her to stay home or I'd be late. I thought she'd wait outside. She has done so before, but for other types of appointments. But instead she tried to go in with me. The staff kept her out and later she knocked on the door and walked into the appointment saying she needed to tell my doctor about my family medical history. I had already told my doctor all of it. She was taken out of the room and the door was locked. When I left the hospital, she wasn't there anymore and was upset that I kept her out. Oh my god, why? I told her it was a very private thing to be asked about your past relationships and getting examined. I'm extremely shy with my body and it's always hard for me to do these things. So of course I didn't want her there or even think for her to want to be there. She told me she wants grandchildren and she's my mum. Therefore it's not that big of a deal for her to be with me during my visit and that I should stop acting like my body is sacred since I'd need to get used to other people, medical staff, seeing it. She also told me that my dad is always with her whenever she needs to be examined, so I should allow her to be there with me. I told her that a spouse is way different than a parent and that since she hates to talk about horizontal mumbo and has you know what shamed me in the past, she's super religious and hated to see me with anyone, there was no reason for her to be there. Edit, at the time of the appointment I was temporarily living with my family so she knew that I was going to go to the hospital and forced me to tell her why. If I disagree with her, she'll try to make my life hell and make my family turn against me. Also, the appointment was not related to fertility or pregnancy. I don't live with them anymore, so she doesn't know about my life as I went low contact. This comment, holy hell, is she gonna be there when your kids are conceived too? Yeah, boundaries, have you ever heard of them? Well, the original poster actually commented this. She doesn't think there should be a boundary from her towards me. I always had these awful experiences with her, but I never knew they were not normal until I was an adult. My dad always sided with her and my family told me I needed to listen to her. Yeah, you definitely don't. But yeah, that's so gross and entitled and they need to learn to respect your boundaries. And I'm sorry that you have to deal with this. Father covers for his new wife. He's surprised when I cut him out of my life. I'm starting this out by saying what's done is done. This has been a long time coming and it's well deserved. Please don't suggest I try to reconcile with my parent. Recently I've come to learn that T, my stepmother, who's only been around for 8 years and whom I don't care for, stole $768 from me, 32 male. When I spoke to my father, all he could do was complain about how many problems this is causing him, the stress on his heart and how it's damaging his relationship. He didn't apologize for what she did, he just made the phone call about himself. For a phone call that lasted an hour and a half, I probably spoke for 15 minutes or less. I told him we could talk about it when I get there and figure something out. He then suggested flat out that I can help him work to make back the money. Yeah, sure, let me perform physical labor to earn the money that your wife stole from me and pocket you another $900. Yeah, that sounds great. I was coming in from out of state for a different reason and already planning on staying at the house. This is my childhood home with my room still furnished how I left it. Like my clothes are still in the dresser for when I visit. Plane tickets purchased and I send him the confirmation date. The next day, he then texts me that I'm no longer welcome at the house, that it's time I grow up and seek healthcare somewhere else, and that he just needed to know where to send the money. This throws all of my appointments into the void, and I had to cancel and rebuy plane tickets because of it, and now I'm staying with other family. I know he did it to protect my stepmother from the confrontation of facing me in person. She crumbles to dust if people raises their voice around her or curse too much, even casually. For reference, this woman is in such need of therapy that I cleaned and rearranged the kitchen one morning and they started crying and claimed that I was kicking her out of the house by making it not hers. All I did was do dishes and organize and clean the spice cabinet and pantry. He kept saying that it's for his health, that I'm not there and that it's too much stress. I have my own money and transportation and provide my own food. The duration of the trip was 2 weeks. I block him and my stepmother on everything. I asked my family to no longer speak to my dad about me, and this is all after a lifetime of abuse and narcissistic BS from my father. Now I hear through the grapevine that he's shocked and just couldn't believe I'd do this to him. My sibling already no longer speaks to him because of similar things, and him telling my brother to grow up and quit being a you-know-what after my sibling set a boundary with him. I had warned him before that if he kept up in his ways, casually racist, homophobic, blatantly inflammatory, he'd have no one to take care of him when he's older, and he didn't listen. If that wasn't enough, my late mum's last words to him were, "Don't let the family fall apart." Way to go, Dad. Thank you for listening. Wow, that's so sad. And yeah, obviously it's not your fault at all, but yeah, when the people in your life are like this, you are gonna have a more peaceful life when they're not in it. And yeah, having to say that about your own family members is so sad. sad. All the best with this. I'm sure it'll get easier. But yeah, I suppose that is one thing to look forward to. If you are no contact with them, then yeah, this stuff isn't gonna happen. But yeah, so sad. My family's making fun of me because I like Animal Crossing and other childish things. I, female 24, love Animal Crossing and I've been obsessed with that game since elementary school. I bought the Nintendo Switch for the new Horizons game, and my mother made fun of me. I tried to explain that it's not for children only and that she might like it. I was on vacation with my aunt this summer. I was ordering stickers to put on my phone case and my aunt noticed. Keep in mind that we just came back from visiting my father's cousin. She has an intellectual disability. So my aunt commented, "Are you sure that you're not the slow one?" Wow, what? I was hurt and I lied about who I was purchasing the stickers for. She later talked to my mother on the phone and laughed about me because I'm slow. Oh my god, what? So you said you're 24. I'm 24. I play Animal Crossing. Literally every person I know plays Animal Crossing. People older than me as well. Because yeah, not only is what they said absolute BS, but even if something is childish, it doesn't mean you can't play it. Yeah, nah, you're not in the wrong here. And it's so awful that they're making you feel bad when they're the ones who are completely in the wrong and so rude. Children at the movie theater. I went for a movie today after a long time. During the trailers, a kid is listening to Baby Shark on high volume. Okay, I'm gonna ignore it because it's just the trailers. Once the movie starts, the Baby Shark stops. Well, 10 minutes in and cue the kid screaming. The mother pacifies him with the tablet again. So now, along with the movie, we all listen to Baby Shark on blast. Like the entitlement of these parents. Finally, the people around them scream to shut that crap down. 1 hour in and another kid starts jumping up and down. Obviously, the kid is done with their attention span for the day. Her parents don't seem to care. People around them scream to get the kid seated. After probably half an hour, they leave the movie. Is a movie so important to these parents that they can't leave once they see their kids revolting? I finally remembered why I stopped going to the movies. It's thanks to the people around me who can't watch a movie in silence and not distracted by their phone. Yeah, I can't even imagine how frustrating that would have been. Baby Shark during a movie? That's not something you want to hear during a movie. Well, to be fair, I don't know if that's something you ever want to hear. But yeah, why do people have to be so frustrating? Angry stepfather tries to make pregnant me climb a ladder. So my stepfather likes to garden. I do not. They have lots of fruit trees and a vegetable patch. I hate ladders and I always have. I can now climb with only some anxiety when I used to get a panic attack getting 2 rungs up. And I'm also 16 weeks pregnant with twins. My mother is injured and stepfather is disabled, so he asked me to go pick some tomatoes and plums. When we go outside, he said he'd get the ladder. I said, I don't think I should be climbing one. He cuts me off and tells me to stop being dramatic as he'll hold it. He starts to unfold it and I say in a calm voice, I'm really not comfortable climbing a ladder. He full on yells at me to just drop everything and go home then. I remain calm. I'm a teacher. I deal with tantrums all the time. And I tell him I'm not saying that. He yells at me the same thing and then just to leave him to do it all. He's fallen multiple times and I told him I couldn't in case he fell. We don't speak as he drops plums into a bucket. He then ditches me and goes inside to pout and tattle to my mum. He tells her that I had a fit about being asked to climb a ladder. Her only response, well, they don't climb ladders, you know that. Update, he's calmed down and sent an apology text. I haven't replied yet. Oh my god, why are they acting like this? You're a fully grown adult. Yeah, like the top comment says, how old is this man? Sounds like a toddler being told no. Yeah, that's so bad. And even if you weren't pregnant and you didn't want to go up a ladder, they still should have respected that. Like, that's already understandable, but it's a million times more understandable if you are pregnant. Like, yeah, fair enough, you probably shouldn't be climbing ladders if you're pregnant, or like doing anything where you can fall and hurt yourself. Oh, that's so frustrating. The audacity. Customer doesn't understand the concept of paying for a gift card. So I work in a retail store and during my shift I was working on the till. For most of the day the customers were normal, some moody, but not too bad. But then 2 women with a little girl showed up and they put 3 items on the belt, but they let their kid keep a PlayStation gift card. I ask if she'd already paid on another till for the gift card and she says no. So I ask if she's paying for it and she says no, she just likes the cards. Then in a much louder voice says, is there a problem? I tell her that she can't just take a product from our store without paying. Policy plus the store gets robbed enough. And she proceeds to huff at me loudly and then take the card out of her kid's hand and smacks it down on the counter saying it's pathetic and telling her kid that the man won't give us the card, we'll get you one somewhere else. She proceeds to glare at me as she leaves and then her friend pays and then shuffled out the door. I know it's not the most exciting of encounters on here, but it's one of my first real entitled encounters in my job, so I figured I'd share. Edit, I think I may need to explain a bit bit more of the gift card. It was a PlayStation one that cost £10 to activate. My store only sells Amazon, Xbox, and PlayStation gift cards, and we don't have any of our own. Also, my store policy is clear about taking any property, even a card they haven't activated, is still not allowed as someone else could have paid for the card. Yeah, so obviously it's not going to work and there's going to be no money on it, but I think they know that because they said, no, she just likes the cards. It sounds to me like they're not trying to use the gift card, but they feel like because they're not putting any money on it, they should just be able to have it. Because yeah, they said, no, she just likes the cards, as if they just want their kid to play with the card or something. But yeah, even still, it doesn't make it free, or they're trying to resell the card or something. But yeah, you can't just take it. My 61-year-old mum just found out the will of my deceased father's parents, and although she's given 20 grand, the rest of their estate goes to myself, 29, and my sister, 19. My mum has said to us that we have to give our portion to her. Of course, I'd give her money if she needed it, but my dad died 2 years ago, and she spent $1 million of his life insurance on trivial stuff. My sister's disabled and easily manipulated, so she said yes, but I feel it's unfair to both of us to be expected to just give her money against what the will says. She's angry and called me selfish, but it's in the will. I will give her some of it because she's my mum and I love her, but surely I shouldn't be expected to give her everything. I feel a bit angry because she was very mean to me, and also because my sister, who is disabled and can't work full-time, might actually need this money to survive. Anyway, I appreciate any comments or advice. Update, we had a long chat and she apologized. She now only wants a small portion in acknowledgement of her being part of the family. Yeah, she still wants something, but it's up to me and my sister to decide where my grandparents are gone. She's still a bit entitled, but whatever. Hopefully things will blow over. At the moment, I'm okay with her having some, maybe 50 to 100,000 out of $1 million. But I'm sure that when I have kids, my priorities are going to change. I'm going to start trying with my husband in the next year or so. And I didn't make promises. My uncle, the executor of the will, found a letter from his father saying that they gave my mum 150,000 already as her inheritance earlier. And upon this realization, mum is somewhat appeased, as is he. I think things are okay for now. Thank you, everyone. I'm still going to copy that will and keep it safe. But I believe the critical period is in the past. Also, she agreed that my sister would only match what I give, which is a major improvement. Oh yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. I love when by the time I read a post, it's already sort of resolved itself. But yeah, that's good. It sounds like everything's going to be okay. And of course, because it's in the will, I'm pretty sure you don't have to give them anything. Yeah, like obviously you want to give them something, but it is pretty generous giving somebody who blew $1 million even more money. The next one is called Entitled Mother Ignores Boundaries and Encourages a Child to Open Pet Carrier in Public. This happened just now. One of my pet rats suddenly became very ill. I rushed to the vets on public transport with another rat in the carrier to keep him company. The ill rat was admitted to hospital overnight and the outlook is not good. It's likely that he'll need to be euthanized. I was very upset as I got back on the train, and as I got on, a mother and daughter 5-ish were gasping in delight at seeing a pet in a carrier. I started ugly crying when I sat down and I clutched the carrier. The mother and daughter sat next to me and the mother joyfully encouraged her daughter to ask me what pet I had. Oh my god, what? Read the room, lady. Oh my god. I started crying harder and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not in the mood to chat. I'll need to have an animal euthanized. You can have a look at my rat if you want. I turned away, I put the carrier on the seat next to me and cried more. A few seconds later, the woman is encouraging her child to open the carrier to play with my rat. Okay, he's a big softie, but the train was stressing him out. I pulled it away and I said, please don't do that. The woman pulls her daughter back and says loudly and passive-aggressively, wasn't that lady rude? Wow, what's wrong with people? The child starts laughing at me. I'm listening to sad music, my nose is running, openly sobbing while the woman and her kid insult me. And then you took your rat out and you threw the carrier at them. No, I'm just joking. But for real though, what's wrong with people? What sort of a mood do you have to be in where you are actively making somebody else's day worse? Being so inconsiderate, so rude, and just invasive? Yeah, sorry that you had to deal with this. A parent lost his kid's travel document at the airport. So this dad is traveling to Greece with his daughter. Must have been 12 or 13 years old. He comes rushing to the boarding gate all chill like, hey, we lost my daughter's ID card. Can you make an announcement? First of all, this is an airport. We can't randomly make announcements asking if anyone has seen your travel document. That's like making announcements at the mall asking if anyone found $200 on the floor. And you can't travel if you don't have your document with you. Are you kidding me? She's a child. We politely explained that we can't do that and they should go look for it while they still have time. We suggested they contact the passport control, as there are staff looking around and cleaning and monitoring everything 24/7, and that if anything is found unattended, it immediately goes to the police. So the guy started yelling and calling us ridiculous. He left, angrily leaving the girl on her own, unattended at a gate full of strangers, probably probably assuming that we'd look after her while we work, and 10 minutes later he comes back demanding that we make an announcement again, and we explained again that that's not possible for security reasons, and at that point boarding had started. So I had this douche yelling at me for not helping him find his daughter's ID card, which he lost while I was checking other people's travel documents and trying to contact the aircraft via radio. We couldn't listen to what the aircraft was asking for because this dude kept asking us for something we told him what he should do with. Eventually he went to look for it again, obviously didn't go to the passport control and just came back at the end of the flight. We told him that without an ID card the girl can't travel, and thus we'll escort him back to the public area to book a new ticket. The girl was crying and sobbing at this point, and he just started yelling at her, like he yelled asking her why she's crying, and then he just told her let's go, and I called for him to stop because they have to be escorted outside. His very mature response was something along the lines of F off before you piss me off too. They go to the passport control to try and get out themselves. They can't because they need to be escorted, and the girl's ID card was there. Surprise! He comes back running, yelling that they found it, to which I passively told him that the doors are closed and it's too late now. Wait for another colleague to escort you outside. I left them there and walked away, and so did my supervisor. I love how this dad not only lost his kid's travel document, yelled at her for it, and demanded we take action for him, refusing to follow whatever we suggested to help. We couldn't leave the area for security reasons, and then when we explain what he has to do, he takes off, and then comes back expecting us to do him a service and help him. Some people shouldn't be parents. I felt so sorry for that girl. Yeah, so you told him to go to passport control, and if they listened to you, surely they would have made the flight. My father won't come to my wedding, so I've made a few posts within the past few years regarding my insane relatives. Long story short, those that don't want to read my older posts, father's wife is a terrible person who I have absolutely no desire to be near. Well, I'm getting married very soon. I've tried to extend an olive branch towards my father out of an obligation to myself. The only condition is that his wife does not attend. With his invite, I sent him a letter explaining as much, but still kept it very polite and positive. He never sent his RSVP back, so I reached out to him. He stated that he won't come unless he's allowed to bring his wife. He said he's tired of putting his feelings aside for others. Yeah, because my wedding is totally about your fee-fees. This is the kind of crap that reminds me why we have a trained and non-existent relationship to begin with. His wife will always and forever be his priority. To hell with these kids who are traumatized and have PTSD from her treatment of them during childhood. Yeah, what a sucky sort of situation. But 100% don't let them come to the wedding. Yeah, like the top comment says, stick to your guns, do not let her come. If dad won't come because of it, that's on him. The next one is called Entitled Mum Wants My Annual Pass Discount. I haven't been on this subreddit in so long, but this happened to me this week and I have to share it somewhere. So I have an annual pass for Efteling, one of the most famous theme parks in Europe. I pay €200 plus a year for my annual pass. This pass comes with benefits such as a 5% discount on souvenirs and food. I happen to be in a souvenir shop where I bought some pins because I collect them. In front of me is a woman with a stroller full of goods. No kid though. Little kids' PJs, blankets, plushies, and all sorts of merch and souvenirs. She just finished paying and she sees me holding my pass. She suddenly looks very happy and says to me, "Oh, you have an annual pass? I was looking for an annual pass holder to befriend so I could get a discount." Her actual words. The cashier looks at me with a hell no face. She turns to the cashier and says, "Can I return all this and buy it again with her discount?" To which he obviously says no. She leaves the shop somewhat annoyed and I go and pay for my pins. I chatted with the cashier for a bit and he sighed and said, "The audacity of some people." Even if I had met her before and she asked for a discount, I would have definitely said no. I pay for my annual pass with my own money, and if she wants a discount, she should get her own pass. The only people who can benefit from my discount are my friends and family and me, not some random lady who buys a crap ton of souvenirs and feels entitled to other people's discounts. Later on, I walked out of the shop and I heard her talking to a friend or sister, I don't know, about how she could have gotten a 10% discount if people were nice to her. Lady, it's only 5%, and I'd be surprised if she actually found somebody to give her the discount. With that attitude, what's your take on this? It's shop policy, of course, but what would you do if somebody asked you for a discount like that? If they're buying heaps of random stuff, they can't need a discount that bad. But yeah, it sounds like you handled it perfectly. I would have done the exact same. Or maybe just straight up ignored them if they were being obviously rude. Like, sorry, you're not talking to me, are you? Sorry, no, we're not gonna have a conversation. Bye. The next one is called My Mum Thinks She's Entitled to a Grandchild at All Times. My husband and I live live with my mum because she's a low income earner. She can't afford to pay her mortgage, so we help her pay her mortgage and house maintenance, etc. I also pay for most of her bills and all her car notes. In return, she helps with babysitting when she's free. Lately, she started to become controlling towards my 2-year-old. She's yelled and screamed at her almost every other day and said nasty things. A couple of days ago, my daughter wanted to sleep with her, so I let her. Middle of the night, daughter started crying profusely, so I came out to check and I was picking up my daughter from her bed to come sleep with me. My mum suddenly snatched her away from me and said, "No, she cannot sleep with you. Let her go." I was shocked and I said, "That's my daughter. What's wrong with you?" She then said, "But she's my grandchild." Continued to pull her from me while my daughter was crying. The next morning, she acted as if nothing happened, yeah, of course, and tried to converse with me. It was extremely bizarre, and since then I can't look at it the same way, and I haven't spoken to her. I talked about this to my direct relatives, and they said that I'm wrong. What do you mean? And they took my mum's side. I'm honestly not sure what to say anymore. Am I the bad one here? First of all, keep in mind, you're completely supporting them, and now they're starting to become possessive with your child. You're already not in the wrong. For context, my mum was borderline abusive to me my entire life and never took accountability for any of her wrongdoings. Everything she did, she claimed, was because she wanted good things for me. I confronted her many times about yelling at my child, but she hasn't stopped, claiming that your daughter is bad, so I have to teach her. My daughter is literally 2 and can barely speak. Not sure what's so bad about her spilling water or wanting to draw on the floor. Update, lots of folks here are asking why I allow my daughter to be in her life. It's a long story of how I got there, but over the years I thought my mum had changed and become a nicer person. I've always assumed it must have been hard being a single mum raising kids. That's why I could understand why she was angry at us lots of times. And my daughter's obviously not near her anymore after what happened. I'm still processing the situation and trying my best here. A lot of people in my comments don't understand cultural aspects. Please read my replies to comments below. However, thank you for all the comments. I've made my decision for this matter and I'll stop replying to the comments. Yeah, 100% the top comment. Your mum's financial problems are not your problem. There is help for low income people, but if she was borderline abusive to you, why in the hell would you open up your daughter to the same behaviors? You need to get out of your mother's home, and if she is that badly off, and if all of your other relatives think she was right, she can live with them. But get the hell out with your kid ASAP. And OP responded, she seemed to change over the years and lessen her behaviors when I started making decent money, so I allowed her, thinking she'd not be abusive to my child. I grew up in a tradition where kids owed parents their lives, so I have to support her. I don't know how to cut her off and where she'd go if she couldn't pay her mortgage anymore. Yeah, wow, that's not a fun situation. But yeah, at the end of the day, these issues are your mum's issues and not yours, and you shouldn't feel obligated to have to completely support them just because they gave birth to you. And for what? For them to be awful to you? Nah, definitely not. All the best with this. The next one is called My Mum is Jealous. My mum is jealous of me, 30 male, and it's weirding me out. Any slightest indication of my wife being intimate to me, my mum will let my wife know that she needs to be careful with me and that I'm her son first and my wife's husband second. I'm talking about an instance where my wife posts on social media or simply talks nice about me. Is that normal behavior? Should I talk to a professional about this? It's gotten to the point where my wife is having to watch everything she does, and it's having an inevitable consequence in my family life. Right now my mum's visiting us for a few weeks, and it's created the most awkward situation in my household. Oh my god, I bet it has, and you have to deal with this for a few weeks? Nah. That's so strange. That's definitely not normal, and that's definitely the mum's issue. Like, yeah, obviously they have a right to say something if you're being straight up inappropriate, but you're not being inappropriate even a little bit. Doing and saying completely normal stuff. Yeah, no, that's super weird. The next one is called Mum Gets Mad at Me for Spending Any Money Whatsoever. So today we had a late start for school for seniors specifically, and if you didn't have a ride, you'd have to get there 4 hours early and sit there and do nothing while the other grades did their mock sat. I didn't want to do that, so I ordered an Uber. My mum and her boyfriend went out, and I figured they'd be out for the entire morning and wouldn't come home until after I was gone. I was wrong and they were there, and the Uber came at the same time. They proceeded to get mad at me for spending my money, and I just think it's ridiculous. I'm excellent about saving my money. I never spend more than 20% of my paycheck per month. So why is it that I, a teenager, am expected to save all my money? Is that really realistic to expect of a teenager? My mum and her boyfriend proceed to get mad at me and then refuse to buy anything or invest anything in me, including food and basic necessities, even refusing to take me for a ride to places because I have my own money. It's super infuriating to be refused of food and literally anything because I spent $8 to get to school. Anyone else deal with this? What? No, that's so awful. And denying food and basic necessities? Nah. And yeah, the top comment, make sure that your money is secure and not accessible to them in case they want to become total control freaks. Yeah, which definitely sounds like it could be a possibility from what they've said. God, that's so bad. The next one is called My Mum Low-Key Spoilt My Wedding. So there's a lot of context leading up to the drama, which I'll do my best to sum up, but basically me and my partner decided to have a child-free wedding, and my brother and mother were absolutely horrified, told me I was ripping the family apart, etc, etc, ruined my engagement, the whole shebang. Fast forward a few months and my brother has largely moved on and my mother is trying her best, but still has an occasional strop about it. Now, the day before my wedding, all hell breaks loose. My other brother, who bless him is the only person who didn't upset me during the planning of the wedding, calls me and says that he has COVID. Oh no, we have a number of vulnerable people coming and I can't risk anyone getting ill. I'm really close to him and devastated that he can't come. I call my mother in tears, and instead of reassuring me that the wedding will still be lovely or anything like that, she admits that the wedding will be crap and is largely upset about all the food that she's bought that'll go to waste. So I'm furious. We argue. She insinuates that everyone thinks less of me because the whole child-free crap. She then essentially emotionally blackmails me into inviting my sister-in-law and young niece because if I don't, she won't have anyone to talk to. I said I was glad I was going to become a member of a different family. Not my finest moment, admittedly, but I'd reached the end of my tether. Skip to the evening. I'm heading to my mother's for the night with my maid of honor. I call my mum to let her know that we're on my way and she's hammered. She can barely string a sentence together. We arrive and I have to look after her and my maid of honor makes us dinner. We have to collect the flowers without her and neither of us drive. I'm trying to sober her up all the while she's phoning and messaging her friends telling them that my wedding is a disaster. Lovely. I'm so angry by this point. I can barely keep it together. The wedding day arrives and all things considered was absolutely wonderful. My mother barely spoke to me and we haven't spoken properly since the wedding about 3 weeks ago. No apology, nothing. The kicker is that her response to my brother when he said how hurt I was to say, we're both hurt. So yeah, there's a better chance of hell freezing over than her actually taking responsibility for her actions. I'm at a loss here and I don't know how to move forward. I don't want to speak to her first because I know she won't apologize, but I don't think I can just brush this under the carpet. Am I overreacting? The mum sounds awful in this. You're 100% not overreacting. Everything that you've said here has shown how much they only think about themselves. Like it's so self-centered and just nasty. And also like this comment says, you're not overreacting, but you also won't get what you seek from her. Listen, you know the type of person that your mum is. You involved her in the wedding planning anyway, even cried to her when you found out that your brother wasn't coming. You need to divorce yourself from the need to be with her and validated by her, and just accept that she's not a very good support person. Yeah, sorry you had to deal with this, that's awful. The next one is called, I don't care that your horse doesn't really like kids. Let my little angel ride him. For context, this happened 6 months ago and the Karen was asked to move her horse. Also, I wouldn't let her kid ride my horse because 1, it was 36 degrees outside, and 2, my horse doesn't really like kids and it was a super hot summer's day and I was walking my horse to wash rack after lunging him. Karen walked up to me while I was washing my horse. We had a normal conversation until she asked if her kid could ride my horse. I told her no, it's too hot out and my horse doesn't like kids. She stormed off and I put my horse in pasture and went into the tack room and grabbed my saddle. I took my saddle outside to wash it and Karen stomped up to me screaming at me with her kid in tow, calling me an entitled a-hole. No way. She grabbed my saddle, threw it onto the ground, and then she picked up the stand that my saddle was on and threw it on my saddle before storming away. God, it's so hard to believe that these people are real. Like imagine having a tantrum because your kid can't ride somebody else's horse and then also to throw the saddle and maybe damage it as well. Yeah, well, people are unbelievable. The next one is called Family Wants My Cat. I'm staying with my parents for a few months and they have another cat that doesn't really have a personality, so they love my cat. I have a niece whose mother is now a vet and the niece keeps saying that she's gonna have my cat one day. What? I think she thinks this because I gave them my cat one time that they really wanted, but then he died of cancer. Anyway, I don't know, it's just weird to me. Like my niece is in 4th grade, so I know kids just say whatever, but my stepmom also says things about my cat like after I move out the cat is gonna be theirs. But my stepmom also says things about my cat like after I move out the cat is gonna be theirs. Jokingly, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, it doesn't really sound like they are joking. You need to tell them right now that it's your cat. Yeah, like the top comment says, you need to set a boundary with them. Every time one of them says they'll be keeping the cat, say, no you won't. That's my cat and where I live is where the cat lives, even if you have to get stern. And they say, I'm only joking. Just keep saying it, especially since in the past you have given your aunt a cat that was yours. Yeah, 1,000,000%. And that's not rude or anything either. Like, this is my cat. What are you talking about? It's gonna be yours? No, it's not. That's so frustrating. The next one is called My Mother EM gave my spoiled brother EK all of my Special Olympics trophies and medals because, quote unquote, you don't deserve these. So this happened over 5 years ago, and I was reminded by someone's post when their spoiled cousin destroyed one of their track medals because he couldn't have it, so here I go. So when I was in middle school, I, having undiagnosed autism, played Special Olympics because I wasn't allowed on an actual team because I might get an offer to college, and that was not allowed, at least for me. Well, this spring meet where all the area schools played track and field events against each other, I was so fast I was put in the 400 meter dash and long jump and a few other races. I got first place in most of the events I played and a few second place trophies and medals, and then I also played Special Olympics basketball, and I was really good at that. Our school team got second place and we all received medals and a small trophy. Well, when I got home, EK was very jealous because, EK, why can't I have the trophies? Me, because they're mine and I worked hard to earn them. EK, well, I want them. It's not fair. I deserve them. No you don't. Me, no, I earned them. Entitled Mum, you heard EK, give him one of your trophies and medals. Me, I worked hard for these. I'm not giving them to EK. Entitled Mum, I don't care. EK deserves them more. Me, but I worked really hard. Aren't you even proud of me? Oh, that's so sad. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. That sucks. But yeah, of course, you're right. You completely earned them. Oh, what an awful thing for a parent to say. The top comment says, favoritism much? Yeah, 100%. And that's so sad. Sorry that you have to deal with this. My male 21, mother 60, thinks I have the obligation of telling her everything about what our family does. Ever since the divorce of my parents about a year ago now, my mum has asked me now and again what my father was doing, where he was, if he had a new girlfriend. It got to the point where she asked me where that new girlfriend lives. Mind you, I never answered any question and I just kept on repeating, if you want to know something about my father, then ask him. Whenever I said to her that I wouldn't give her info because it wasn't my job to be the post office between her and my father, she claimed that I didn't care about her, that if I cared, I'd be on her side. I didn't fall into that trap and I established a clear boundary about those questions. She felt attacked, but we carried on. Today, I told her I was going to a show with my father and brother. For a reason I don't know, my brother never answers any of my mother's texts or calls. She asked me if my brother was coming, and I told her that she could ask him. She started with the whole, you don't care about me and stuff. She repeated that over and over, and I wanted to say that I did care about her, but I said that I didn't. It was a mental slip. I realized my mistake immediately, and I told her that I misspoke and said sorry. She decided to fixate on the fact that I said that I didn't care about her and left the room. Of course, I realized I did have some responsibilities because I misspoke. I went to her room and I said sorry, that I did care about her and that she should ask my brother directly. She started yelling, saying that she's given me everything in life. I asked her if I had the obligation of telling her absolutely everything she wanted to know, and she said that if it was about family that I should. I realized that I wasn't going to change her mind and I left the room. Am I the a-hole here? Is my mother manipulating me emotionally? Oh my god, yeah, 100%. Yeah, like this comment says, yeah, your mother is manipulating you severely. She's completely wrong to ask you to report on anyone else's activities, or even to require you to report on your own activities when they don't concern her. No, you are not at fault. You're not your mum's spy or informant, and your brief slip saying that you didn't care about her was understandable given that she kept telling you that you didn't, and you did your best to make it right. You could turn that around in demanding that kind of information from you. She's showing that she doesn't care about you, and I'm sorry, she's trying to use you as a spy. Yeah, continue to tell her that if she wants information about anyone, she should contact that person directly. That is the right thing to do. My mother-in-law photoshopped my husband's nose on our wedding pictures. How do I tell him? Okay, so first of all, why would you do that? I, 27 female, have been with my husband, 29 male, for 7 years. I remember that early in our relationship, one of the first things that he expressed insecurity about was his nose, specifically about its width. He never wanted surgery, but thinks his nose is too big for his face. I never thought that was true, and for a long time I wondered where he'd even gotten that idea from. Then I met his mother, and all my doubts went out the window. I don't hate her, but the woman complains about everything, and she seems particularly interested in criticizing her sons. Barely anything about my husband or his older brother is good enough for her, and if it is, she's quick to imply that they don't deserve it. According to my brother-in-law, that behavior didn't start until father-in-law passed away about 8 years ago, so they don't usually hold it against her. But to me, it seems like she legitimately doesn't want her children to be happy. Most times that we talk to her, my husband ends up devastated. She constantly complains about me, his job, our apartment, and his appearance. She has on more than one occasion compilation suggested that he gets a nose job. That tends to upset him, so I always try to shut that down as quick as possible. We got married in early May, the photos were ready about 2 months later, and we created a shared album on Google Photos for our friends and family, including mother-in-law. I got pregnant during our honeymoon, can't recommend Dubrovnik enough, and I'm now 24 weeks along. We've already had problems with mother-in-law concerning my pregnancy. We're having a boy and she had a breakdown because she wanted a girl. That forced us to put her on an info diet. That was 2 months ago and she's since improved her behaviour. And because of that, we said yes when she invited us to go to a mall near her place to shop for baby clothes last Saturday. My husband had an emergency at work and ended up not coming, but we still managed to have a good time. When we were done, she invited me back to her place. I hadn't been there in a while and I quickly saw that she'd gotten some of our wedding pictures up on the wall. I instantly noticed something was wrong with them, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was yet. Mother-in-law saw what I was looking at and proudly announced that she'd gotten someone to fix his nose. Oh my god. In other words, she gave her son a Photoshop nose job on his wedding pictures. I couldn't believe it. I never thought she'd stoop so low. It wasn't even a good nose job. It was so bad that my husband's face didn't even look real. He looked like a Ken doll and not in the hot Ryan Gosling way. Mother-in-law must have seen how mad I got because she instantly tried to defend herself. She tried to make the point that her son deserved to look his best on his wedding day, and I should have convinced him to get the real nose job before our ceremony. I made up an excuse to leave, but I could tell that she knew the real reason. She's been calling and texting me almost every day since. I've been ignoring her, but she's always either apologizing, accusing me of overreacting, or begging me not to tell my husband. I know it seems trivial, but I'm so outraged, and the more I think about it, the more disgusted I get. I could never imagine doing something like that to my child. I haven't told my husband yet, mostly because we've both been busy with work this week, but also because I have no idea how to. His mother was finally starting to be a better person around him and his brother, and I know it'll break his heart to find out about this. I don't know what to do. I have to tell him, but I can't figure out how. I know he loves his mother, and I don't want to damage whatever relationship they still have. Mother-in-law also mentioned that she intended to send the improved pictures to some of her relatives, so I have to find a way to shut that down. So how can I tell my husband that his mother photoshopped his face on our wedding pictures? More importantly, what would be the most peaceful way to do it? That's the most ridiculous thing ever. Like, obviously, it's so awful, but at the same time, how do they expect them not to find out? Yeah, so why is my face completely altered on our wedding photos? Do they expect them not to notice? This comment, I agree with the others. Make her put up the real photos. If she doesn't, or tries to say that she prefers these, then let her know that two can play at that game, and in every single picture that she's in, you're gonna Photoshop her with a noticeable beard and make it seem like she screwed up her makeup really bad. Yeah, they'd be mortified if somebody did that to them. The top comment says, I'd suggest that you sit your husband down and say that something came up when you were out with his mum that you need to tell him about. Tell him that you went back to her place and saw that she'd printed up wedding photos, but that she photoshopped his face to change his appearance. Keep it short and don't beat around the bush, and then be supportive and let him react however he's gonna react. I really don't understand why his mum would tell you to not say anything. Does she not realize that at some point he'd see the pictures himself? Yeah, I feel like they think that they're doing the right thing by photoshopping their face. It comes off like they don't see any problem with this. And yeah, there's only one solution. Start photoshopping photos of them. No, but for real, that's so bad. Entitled mum let her kids run around the coffee shop that I work at, and when she was confronted about it, she screamed at me and left. So there's a lady that comes in all the time. She has 4 children, 3 of which who can walk. She always comes up and orders her coffee, but then if her kids throw a fit, she orders something for them too. They each get a pastry. Little kids most likely 3 to 6 in age, getting big slices of sugary bread, and they each get a drink. It's always complicated to make because the kids all want something entirely different. Anyway, her kids are usually fine. I've noticed, however, that she never really watches them. She gets her coffee, sits down on her couch and gets on her phone. She makes them, again, little kids, come up and grab their own orders. It's also dumb because since they're little, I have to stand there and reach over the counter to hand their drinks over and then make sure they don't drop or spill it. The other day she came in about an hour before we closed. That's right around when I start to clean up because it takes me that long to close the shop. So she orders her coffee and luckily her kids didn't feel like getting anything, so I made her coffee and that was that. I'm washing dishes and all of a sudden I hear a shatter from across the restaurant. Her little boy had broken some salt and pepper shakers that were sitting on the table from horsing around. Now there's a big pile of salt and pepper on the floor and glass, so I rush over to sweep it up because I don't want anybody getting hurt. But then her littlest girl started getting upset over whatever and started ripping posters off of our bulletin board in a fit. We've got a big bulletin board so that we can hang community announcements on it, and that was my last straw. I came over and held her hands gently and I told her to stop. The entitled mum came over and told me to take my hands off her kid, and I politely and calmly explained why I was holding her hands and that she couldn't just rip our posters down. Thumbtacks were falling off, and again, I didn't want anybody getting hurt. This pissed her off. She told me to just leave her alone and that she'd calm down soon. I told her again that her daughter couldn't just rip posters off of our bulletin board, and again, that thumbtacks were flying off. She then screamed at me something about how I'm not a parent and I'd never understand, and something about how my generation is so weak and stupid. She then got her kids and just left. Now, I'm not one to take yelling easily. I don't like yelling, and I have some past experiences if you catch my drift. I was pretty shaken up, but yeah, weird. Wow, how rude. So it's your fault because they're acting up? That's so bad. And apparently they were the only person working. Yeah, like this comment says, I honestly think that no place open to the public should have only one staff member on site for safety reasons. I'm a parent with only one kid, and that is already exhausting, so I can't imagine trying to control multiple kids. That being said, if she needs her coffee and quiet-ish time, there's plenty of child-friendly places that do that. Definitely not a coffee shop. Yeah, that's right, but they still have the audacity to get upset at this person when they're the one who's in the wrong. Yeah, that sucks. Lady blamed her son's behavior on me because I don't work during holidays. Context, I have 2 jobs. I'm a bartender on the main, and then for some easy side hustling, I teach electric guitar. I have 4 students all varying in age. I charge off income too, so basically the less you earn, the less I charge, etc. Yeah, so I know I'm only reading this story, but that's not a very good idea, is it? Don't undercharge yourself too much. One of my students is a kid just going into his late teens. He's smart and pretty talented. He loves rockabilly, even knowing I'm not a big fan, and I taught him all the basics and then some. His mum's a lawyer and she's, lack of a better term, loaded. In fact, she offered to pay £20 an hour. For reference, the other 3 I average around 5 to 10 an hour, so I was like, hell yeah. Long story short, due to my main work getting busier during Halloween and Christmas, I usually take October through to mid-November off, and then take the end half of December off, so I work the entire year, but I take those off just to focus on my other job and my family and mental health, etc. I have this directly stated on all sites I advertise, and I explain that unless you're paying hella good or you're slash asking me to teach the next Van Halen, then I'll be largely unavailable. To make up for this, I record custom videos for my students, 1 a week. So let's call her M. M is the lawyer I was talking about. She messaged me on Instagram saying that she recommended me to her friend, which I did really appreciate. She said, they need you now. They're offering £4 an hour and an extra £8 if I do it tomorrow. Yeah, that's not how that works. LOL doesn't even cut it. I explained that that's way below what I'd accept as payment if I was to just come out of work, plus it would be very unfair on my other students. She then said that I was unprofessional and blamed her kid's new angsty attitude on my lessons. I've had to unfortunately leave her on red. Not gonna lie, I don't know what to do, but for now, I guess that kid's not learning the rest of Race with the Devil. So you're unprofessional because you won't take a super low amount of money? Are they joking? I'm gonna assume that they're not, and that's ridiculous. You feel like you need to put your prices way up, so hopefully people stop taking advantage of you like this. The top comment, seeing as you think that your child is picking up bad behavior from me, it's best that we terminate any future lessons. Happy holidays. And then don't even read anything else that she sends. Yeah, please do that. Entitled parent, I'm so mature and not like the other girls because I couldn't go out partying after I had a baby, but you're immature for not partying? My parents have a friend Anna, 50 female, who has basically had issues with me, 23 female, since I was 18. Before I graduated high school, she was on good terms with me and was super nice, but then she started being nasty and judging my life choices. She said that she withdrew her enrollment in college and moved in with her boyfriend because she found out that she was pregnant in senior year. She said that all college students drink and sleep around and that going to college isn't real work. She calls college students privileged kids that are living off their parents, even though she depended on her parents to pay for her kid and couldn't even buy diapers and formula at first. She claims that having kids makes you grow up faster and that she was more mature because I couldn't go out drinking and partying every night like other teenagers. My personal preference, no judgment on others who don't. I'm currently in school to be a special education teacher as I have PTSD and schizophrenia and was in special education for my entire K to 12 years. Between working to pay the bills and finishing my classwork as well as all the volunteer work I do, I have no energy to party due to the aforementioned health issues. Clearly everything she would approve of, right? No. She overshares a lot of stuff about how she used to sneak her boyfriend into the house while her parents were working and brags about how she went out partying every night and was so popular. Oh god, that's sad. There was one time when she made comments about being sexually active in high school and laughed and said that I need to have some fun before I settle down. She pretty much called me an old maid at 18 and said that the fun years of my life were coming to an end and it's all work and responsibilities from here. Oh my god, get them out of your life. She claims that if you don't go out partying, you won't grow as a person. Oh my god, what? She keeps saying that I'm missing out on quintessential teenage experiences and that I'm gonna end up emotionally stunted and I'm wasting my youth. So are people who don't don't drink or party stunted childish losers? Or are they wise and mature? You can't have it both ways. Oh, that's so toxic. Yeah, the top comment, there are all types of people in life, including those like her that can be safely ignored. Yeah, it 1,000,000% sounds like a jealousy sort of thing. And the audacity of them to feel like they can say this sort of stuff about your life. How are you going to be emotionally stunted because you don't go out partying? Yeah, I'm glad you're not really taking what they say seriously, because that's so silly and also super rude. Yeah, like this comment says, she's extremely jealous and she needs to work on herself and not tear you down. Yeah, definitely. The next one is called the evil pacifier that targeted my toddler and the mother who didn't bat an eye at her children who were chucking it and hurling it across the room at top speeds. I was at a church service the other day with some friends, my wife and my 14-month-old son. After the service, these two siblings, one looked to be about 2 and the other maybe 5 or 6, were running around the lobby throwing this kid's pacifier with a clip up in the air and playing catch with it. The pacifier was launched about 30 feet up into the air and about 10 feet across the room every time. One more forceful throw sent the pacifier hurtling across the lobby, flying through the air and landing at my feet. So I picked it up and I brought it over to their mum, who was sitting on a couch looking at her phone, not paying attention to her 2 children. I went over to her and I told her, your kids were throwing this, just thought you should know, in a very kind sort of casual way, and laughed. I thought that maybe she didn't know what her kids were doing. She gave me the most thinly veiled, dirtiest look I've ever seen. Okay, that's fine, she said, and I sighed profusely. I walked away and I went on to mind my own business. About 15 minutes later, my wife handed me our son so I could play with some toys in the lobby. He started to walk around a little, so I followed him, and that's when I saw these 2 kids throwing the pacifier again. Their mum still looking at her phone in the same place as before. The pacifier was held across the entire lobby again before my very eyes. My eyes widened as I realized it was a projectile coming for my precious offspring. Before I could even process what was going on, it came catapulting towards my toddler's head. Before I was even able to lift a finger to catch it, it precisely hit its target. My eyes widened. The metal clip part had struck my son in the back of the head. His eyes started to well up until the inevitable scream came pouring out at the top of his lungs. I picked him up to comfort him. I grabbed the pacifier off the floor and walked towards the mum. This hit my kid in the head. Just wanted to let you know so that no one gets hurt, I said awkwardly with my crying child in my other arm. She gave me the dirtiest of all looks again. She raised an eyebrow and gave me that what the hell sort of look, if you know what I mean. She said nothing else, got up, grabbed her kids and stomped out the door with a very angry, unpleasant look on her face. No clue where she went after that. Weirdest experience of my life involving my child. He still has a mark on the back of his head. Oh my god, how did you not scream at them? Or immediately throw the bloody pacifier in the bin? What's wrong with people? What sort of a person do you have to be in the mother situation when this happens and still get upset at this person? Like it's not your responsibility and you don't feel bad even a little bit? That's infuriating. It's so infuriating that it's like hard to believe. How is that a real person? The next one says, entitled father thinks that he can control the music that my sisters listen to. My dad, 42 male, is extremely religious and is very strict when it comes to following the Bible. I'm personally not religious and I've told him so straight up, but he's a Christian who believes that it's his God-given duty to teach his children about the Word of God so they can inherit his kingdom, etc., etc. He follows the Bible to a T and expects his children to honor it as well. Oh yeah, that's not gonna cause issues. This includes monitoring what my sisters wear so they can be modest Christian women, controlling their relationships so they don't try to have premarital sex, sorry, horizontal mumbo, and now it's gone as far as what music they listen to. All of our lives, we were really only allowed to listen to gospel growing up. Whenever we were hosting a family function at our home or just playing music, it was always gospel. He believes that any other genre, regardless of what it is devilish and satanic. I'm serious. However, me and my sisters don't care and we listen to whatever we want with our AirPods and headphones and when we're in our cars. One of my sisters, female 17, was listening to her music with her AirPods in and our dad questioned her about what she was listening to. When she told him, he told her that he doesn't want her listening to that stuff and that she needs Jesus. She sent me a screenshot of a text he sent her saying the same thing about an hour or so after. It's ridiculous. I don't care about his beliefs or the fact that he's our father. He doesn't have the right to tell her that she can't listen to anything other than gospel. Like, it boggles my mind that he thinks he can control that. The nerve of some religious folk is absolutely insane. Yeah, and also that won't absolutely backfire one day. Like what, they're gonna try and control absolutely every single aspect about their life now? But what happens when they're fully grown adults and they're out on their own and they can't just be controlled by their dad? Yeah, that must be so frustrating. Yeah, there are always people that take stuff way too far. And like this situation, it's usually awful. Like, treating their kids like this is only gonna end up bad. Yeah, good luck with this. Okay, one more. Mother has invited herself on vacation with me. I've had a crappy year so far. Scarlet fever, major car accident, I'm going through divorce. So when I was selected for a place in Tokyo Marathon next year, I couldn't believe my luck. Honestly, I feel so warm inside just thinking about it. Then I text my mum that I got a place in Tokyo Marathon, and immediately she started planning a trip without telling me. I spoke to her on the phone a few days later, and she spoke about hotels and flights that she found. I said, don't worry, I'll arrange it all. I'm going to be very hotel specific the days before the night and after the marathon. After that, I'm going to do some traveling to other regions. She went silent on the phone and said, but I don't want to do that. I was so confused. I asked her what she meant, and she explained how she wanted to stay in one place and not move around again. I was so confused and was like, what? She explained how she thought that she'd come. I spent the past few days explaining my initial itinerary to her, to which she just replies that she doesn't like it. I've done my best gently to convince her that I don't think this trip is for her. She hates walking, is a picky eater, is easily frustrated, gets annoyed and anxious in crowds. But not just that, I couldn't even imagine leaving her alone during marathon day, which starts and ends in different parts of the city. I haven't been able to arrange anything because she's convinced that she's coming. I know she won't like it. She's never even expressed an interest in Japan, has even complained about Asian people. I just don't want the responsibility of dealing with her outburst and helping her regulate her emotions. I suggested that we take a vacation together to Spain in the summer, and she seemed pleased but is still adamant that she's going to come with me. It's actually making me so stressed that I don't want to go anymore, or wish I never told her. I don't know how to let her down gently but firmly without her being upset with me. Please help, she's so entitled. Yeah, all the comments were saying it as well, but like, just don't tell them about your plans with this trip anymore. Like, oh my god, I already left. There's an update here. Thank you all for the advice. I've just jumbled together some advice from the comments and I texted it to her. I'm keeping it a solo trip as it was intended. Haven't given any more info apart from that it was a solo trip from the start. It's for sport and that I plan to travel around with a suitcase. She has a thing about suitcases. Without giving her anything to retaliate against, she just texted back, okay, thanks all. Oh, okay, that's good. I love when these have a happy ending, or like a sort of happy resolved ending. Sister-in-law freaks out because she feels that my boyfriend and I are denying her child food. My boyfriend's family came to town for a week and stayed with us. We made sure to have clean towels, fresh sheets, a stock fridge, etc. Unfortunately, 2 days after they got here, my boyfriend got laid off. Ever since then, he's been really down in the dumps and grumpy. My boyfriend's family doesn't have the best manners. They leave dirty plates behind. They don't clean up after their kids' messes and such. I tried my best to ignore it and just clean up after them when they weren't home. Today during lunch, we served lasagna. After we finished eating, my boyfriend's sister got up and started packing lasagna for her kids to have for dinner. She packed what her kids left over and was adding more on top. They weren't going to be spending the night with us, so she wanted to have a quick and easy dinner ready for them. I told my boyfriend that if there wasn't enough lasagna left, that I can order him dinner and not to worry. My boyfriend got up and asked his sister how much she was taking because he wanted to make sure that him and I also have enough food for dinner. Again, he's been very stressed about money since getting laid off. She screamed at him, how dare you deny food for my child, and picked her things up and left. Oh my god, what? Everything escalated out of nowhere, and she packed her things and went to another rental. She felt like we were denying her child food. I began crying and I ran into my room because unfortunately, I don't do well in these types of situations. I grew up around an emotionally abusive family and these events are really triggering for me. She told my boyfriend that she didn't feel welcome and she felt like we were being rude to her. Am I at fault for making her feel unwelcome? Or is she just an entitled parent? She said that I was super rude for making that initial comment in the first place. The one where I told my boyfriend to not worry if we don't have enough food left. No, you're definitely not in the wrong here. And who the hell goes to somebody else's house and doesn't clean up after themselves? Yeah, no, that's so unbelievably rude of them. Not you. Wow, the entitlement. That's so frustrating. The next one is called Entitled Mother Tries to Steal My Purse. I, 18, non-binary, still go to my pediatrician for yearly checkups and whatnot. This is relevant, trust me. My doctor's office is located in a fairly bad part of town, the same area I grew up in, so I'm always careful to keep my stuff close to me at all times. It's not like people would get a lot from me if they snatched my bag, but I keep some personal items like meds in my bag. Since this is a pediatrician's office, there are always plenty of children in the waiting room. My brother, 20 male, barely young enough to keep going there, and I were there a couple of weeks ago for our yearly well checks and flu shots. Since we have the same doctor, our appointments were scheduled at different times. My brother goes back first while I sit in the lobby with my bag between my legs playing on my Switch. Our dad had run across the parking lot to pick up a few things from the grocery store, which is fine, considering that we're both legal adults, so I was just sitting by myself in the corner. This adorable little boy, SB, maybe 10 or 11, came over and asked me what I was playing. I told him I was playing Pokemon, and he asked if he could watch. I agreed, both wearing a mask, and angled myself so he could see my screen. We talked a bit about Pokemon, which I could tell he loved a lot, and I showed him my bag. A bit of info about my bag. It's one of those small backpacks made to be like a purse you can wear on your back. It's a cute Pokemon themed bag that goes with me everywhere. I bought it from a store that donates meals to those in need depending on how much you spend. So the bag was more expensive than some would think, $80 to $90, but I didn't mind spending so much since I was getting a lot of meals donated. A few more minutes pass by and the kid's mum calls for him. I tell him that it was nice talking to him and give him a wave as he heads to the opposite side of the room. I go back to my game, but no more than 20 seconds later, someone appears in front of me, standing over me like some kind of predator looking down at its bested prey. I look up to see this lady standing there looking almost like the complete opposite of a Karen. Long, natural looking hair, light makeup, a simple t-shirt and leggings. She was honestly very pretty except for the smug look she had on her face. We'll call her EM. Please note that I'm diagnosed with GAD and a panic disorder, so my reactions are a little extreme. Me: oh hi, can I help you? Entitled Mum: my son told me about your Pokemon purse. I'd put my bag between my feet on the floor with one of my legs inside one of the straps, so it'd be harder for anyone to snatch it. Me: oh yeah, your son is a sweet kid. Entitled Mum: yeah, well, you're too old to be playing with Pokemon stuff. You should give your purse to my son. Oh my god, what's wrong with people? We've read so many different stories that are pretty much the exact same as this, that are like, oh, you're too old to be doing this, so you should give it to my kid. That's not how that works. At this point, I was getting a weird vibe from her, so I tucked my Switch into my bag and slipped my other foot through the other strap. Me: I'm sorry man, but I spent my own money on this bag and I would prefer to. Entitled Mum: see, you're old enough to have a job. Me getting a bit anxious because she's literally standing over me. Please back up, you're way too close to me. I'm not giving you my bag. Even if you paid me the $80 I spent on it, I wouldn't hand it over. Entitled Mum: you're lying. A bag like that doesn't cost that much. You just don't want to give my precious son your bag. The boy: Mum, please leave her alone. I just said it was a cute bag. Entitled Mum ignoring their boy: why are you even in a pediatrician's office? You don't have a kid. Are you just here to watch all the kids like some kind of pervert? Me getting very anxious and now raising my voice: Miss, I'm 18. I've been coming here since I was a baby. Now please step away from me. Entitled Mum: no, you don't belong here. Suddenly there was a hand on her shoulder. She spun around ready to yell at someone else when she finds herself staring directly at my dad's chest. Oh, did I mention this lady is about 4'8" and my dad is 6'1" and ex-Navy? He's staring down at her, just daring her to say something out of line. When she turned around, she stepped far enough away from me that I could slip past her and get into the back room. As my name had been called to go back, the nurse gave me a paper bag to breathe into. I was hyperventilating and crying at this point. This was the same nurse that I see most of the time when I come in for my birth control shots, and she's known me since I was little, so she sits with me to calm me down before taking any of my vitals. After my appointment, I went back out into the lobby clutching my bag in my arms, relieved to see that the mother wasn't there. My dad and brother were waiting for me, so even if she was there, I'd have 2 6-foot-plus bodyguards. My dad told me that the lady tried telling others that I was a you-know-what, but no one listened. Most of the staff knew me since I was in there every 3 months, and she got kicked out. My dad took us out for ice cream after everything, so yay. All of this over a Pokemon backpack. I'm looking for a small wallet to keep my cards and cash in so I don't have to carry my bag with me everywhere. Oh, that's so awful. I feel so bad for their kid. Like, imagine having a mum that acts like this. That's bloody horrifying. And what's this logic where people think that if you're too old for something, like something Pokemon related or something, that you should give it to their kid? Where do people get off? The next one is called My Mother-in-Law Cut My Son's Hair Without My Consent. I made a post in True Off My Chest about my mother-in-law a few weeks ago. She was trying to be the main person picking my son up from daycare despite her beginning to drink and drive again. But wait, there's now more. As of recently, my mother-in-law, 49 female, has been diagnosed with cervical cancer, her second bout altogether. She also has a brain tumor that is now benign yet still clouds her judgment. Since she started her treatment, she's been even more overbearing than usual. She freaks out when I commute to work. I work nights mostly. She guilt trips to get what she wants from her kids and has been trying to do more grandma stuff like crazy. My son loves his grandma and will never leave her alone when she's around, but now she's in time out. So what happened was this. My son's hair was getting long enough to cover his eyes, so I was saving money to get his hair cut on payday. I'd informed mother-in-law of it several times. Of course, she got her own ideas, and like I said, her judgment of late hasn't been the best, as per my True Off My Chest post. I love her very much, but this is starting to get ridiculous, so I had to work this past weekend and I was working late that night. She asked if she could tap my son for the night, and because there was usually no problem with it, his father, 27 male, and I, 28 female, said okay. She planned to keep him until around 11 AM the next morning. I worked that Saturday night and it was tough, and I got home and I played video games with my husband until about 2 or 3 in the morning. We woke up at 5 AM to mother-in-law calling us, and she didn't sound good. She was having severe pains and needed to go back to the hospital. When she dropped him off, his hair was cut and he did not look good. She was telling me how tough it was to cut his hair before she left, saying how bad he struggled with the buzz shears and that at least his hair wasn't over his eyes anymore. Now let me tell you why I was so angry about this. My son, full male, has autism and has specific issues with having his hair cut. I have to be able to keep him distracted, keep him calm, and hold him down when needed so the stylist that he always sees, who specializes in small and or disabled children, can do her job properly. Also, he hates the buzz shears, he doesn't like the vibrations and hates having his hair cut with them. Like, he looked okay in the front, but she used the buzz shears up to half of the back of his head. I would have preferred a bowl cut over this. Sorry for the rant, but I've just been sitting on this for a few days and I'm still not over it. Edit, I already made my decision to not leave her alone with my son again before I posted. I handled the issue and then post. This is mostly a rant about the situation. I still appreciate your comments and concerns though. Now that the anger has subsided and I feel validated in my choice, I'm more concerned for her health and safety than anything. Like one commenter said, she means well but isn't in the right state of mind. As for the drinking, there was another family member who had a severe health complication and nearly died due to his alcoholism a few weeks prior to the incident. It was a wake-up call that my mother-in-law needed to keep her from touching it again. She hasn't had a drink in over 21 days. She only relapsed because my father-in-law passed a couple of months ago. They've been separated for years, but she still loved and cared for him. We were planning to do something to honor his memory, but then life happened. The whole situation is pretty tragic when you actually think about it. Again, thank you for the advice. Yeah, like this comment says, given your mother-in-law's physical and mental conditions, this is really tough. Leaving the haircut aside, I think it's time that your mother-in-law no longer has unsupervised time with your son. At least that's how I'd present it to avoid the otherwise inevitable fights about it. Yeah, I feel like that's the main takeaway from this. No more unsupervised time together. Entitled Mum yells at me because the little ice cream shop doesn't accept cash. I manage a 550-seater restaurant that has a little ice cream shop attached to it. Same owner, different system. The ice cream shop had issues regarding cash up, so the owner decided that no cash will be accepted. Only cards. Anyway, it's a busy Sunday afternoon. We're at full capacity. The customers are nice and I'm enjoying my day. We have live music. The chef is surprisingly in a good mood and not yelling at the waiters. Something has to go wrong, right? I'm doing my rounds on the floor when I spot her. A short woman, red in the face, dragging a crying child and barreling towards me. Oh god, here it comes. Entitled parent, excuse me, are you the manager here? Me, yes ma'am, is everything alright? Entitled parent, does everything look alright? She literally screamed this and people are now looking our way. Entitled parent, you can look my daughter in the eye and apologize to her. Me, completely perplexed. Excuse me? Entitled parent, she wanted ice cream and when I went to buy her some, that girl, pointing towards the cashier, said I cannot pay cash. Me, ma'am, unfortunately we don't accept cash at the ice cream shop. We have signage up indicating this. Entitled parent, well it's BS, you can apologize to her for ruining her day. Ma'am, I'm sorry about your daughter not being able to get ice cream, but if you only have cash, there's nothing I can do. Entitled parent, there is something you can do. You can let me pay for her. Do you not want to make a sale? Me, we cannot accept cash. Entitled parent, well F you then. She then grabs her crying shield and storms off. My manager approached me and I couldn't help but burst out laughing. He asked what happened and I explained it to him. He laughs and says, sounds like a customer that we wouldn't want anyway. God, the entitlement of some people. Yeah, you can say that again. I genuinely can't believe the stuff that we read. Like, wait a second, you're telling me this is a real person? And it's such a non-issue as well. Like, to get this upset about this is so stupid. Like, okay, they don't take cash. Let's sort it out or maybe go somewhere else. But there's no point getting upset and yelling at the employees about it. The next one is called Mother Doesn't Care If I Get Kicked Out of My New House. So my mother and my younger sister are moving to the UK in literally a few weeks. She sold my grandfather's house as it was no longer needed. She didn't plan a place to stay after the house was sold, as she claims that she didn't expect the house to be sold so fast. And so once the house was sold, she started staying with my older sister without even asking, just expecting her to let her, which they did after a grovel. Originally, she was going to make me let her and my little sister stay, but as I live in a studio apartment, bedroom, kitchen and lounge in one room, I told her it was impossible. After an argument or two, she said I must keep the cats then until she can figure out a temporary foster home. She procrastinates severely, so she's being slow on that point. She hasn't even booked tickets yet. She has over a dozen cats and she's taking 5 with her to the UK. The rest were adopted out. However, these cats aren't trained very well and being in a studio, it clutters the place. I told her I can take a few, but not all of them. My house doesn't allow pets, so I told her at first I can't, but then she went on a rant about how she's helped me so many times and that it's things that we do for family. I've already gotten an email from my real estate saying that they know I have cats here and that I need to get rid of them. Like Luckily, they're nice, as I explain my situation that I'm just helping her out for a bit. I expected them to stay like 2 weeks. It's been almost 2 months. They've made the place smell terrible, and they kept scratching up my carpet stairs. They keep climbing up to the window edge and knocking things down and waking me up in the middle of the night. I've slept in because of lack of sleep, and I've missed my uni classes so often. My partner doesn't mind cats, but when they're jumping all over us in the middle of the night, it's pretty hard to deal with it. And the smell too, no matter how many times I clean the litter trays. One of them keeps on peeing on my clothes in the wardrobe, no matter how many times I close it, and I try to keep it closed. At the moment, the cat shelters and such are packed full, but boarding kennels can take them. I've told my mum that I can't have them and that boarding kennels are an option, but she claims that they need certain requirements, yet she hasn't even looked any up, and I have. I explained to her how they work, and she still won't listen. Anytime I try to explain any of this, she gets defensive, calling me a selfish biatch. Oh my god. And that this is what family does for each other. My younger sister calls me selfish for not helping, and my older sister calls me the same. How? Oh my god. How can they not see that your mum is being so awful in this? And like, yeah, you've taken care of the cats for 2 months. What are you meant to do? Have them forever or something? And yeah, by the sounds of it, they're not doing anything or even planning to do anything. And also, where you live doesn't even allow for cats. That's kind of the end of it, isn't it? Yeah, like this comment says, drop them off at your sister's house. Yeah, I can't believe they think that you're being selfish. That's so unbelievable. The next one is called Entitled Dad Called the Police on Me for Sitting in a Pool. This just happened today and I'm so mad. I, 28 male, autistic, just wanted to spend some time relaxing in our local swimming pool. I had black goggles and I like to swim underwater. I also like to simply rest against the poolside and chill. Also, I was the only male without any children in this pool, which is clearly for everyone to use. Shallow at one end, deep at the other end, etc. I'm just resting by the poolside when a manager, not even a lifeguard, a bloody manager, comes over to me and tells me that my presence and behavior is making someone uncomfortable. He explained that someone had complained that me diving underwater and simply sitting by the side of the pool was apparently unacceptable because I was apparently doing this to peep on children. He told me this in a non-accusatory tone and seemed to sound as confused as me about this. At first I thought I was upsetting some over-worried parent, and being a parent myself, I felt horrible. I explained that I was just relaxing by the poolside. I offered to take off my goggles to put them at ease and even wanted to apologize to this person. The manager seemed to accept this and presumably went back to the parent to let them know that I was sorry for upsetting them. About 10 minutes passed and the manager was back telling me that the police had arrived. I was shocked and I asked if it was about me. The manager said yes and that they wanted to talk to me. This is when I meet the entitled dad for the first time. Big guy, maybe early to mid 30s and pretty buff looking. This is the only time he spoke to me and all he said was, "You better go quietly or I'll tell everyone here that you're a you know what." He walked away before I could reply and the manager led me out of the pool. I felt tempted to flip this Kevin the bird as I walked by, but I kept my cool and I just left. I get to the locker room and 2 police women are there waiting. Fortunately for me, they were really nice and friendly with me the whole time. After grabbing a towel, they started asking me what happened and what I was doing. I was honest and I told them I was just trying to relax and I had no idea I was upsetting this person just by being there. I even told them I was autistic, which led to one of the officers telling me that they had a family member who was also autistic. They then asked me for my details to run me through their database. While that went on, the entitled dad walked by and one of the officers asked to talk with him. He agreed and they went elsewhere. I got changed back into my clothes and as I was coming out of the changing room, the entitled dad was in my way with his back to me. I couldn't quite hear what he was saying over the other people in the room, but I did hear him rather loudly order his kids to stay put while he went to get changed. He walked off without seeing me and I left the locker room. The police stayed with me in the lobby until their database came back. Of course, it came back that I had no history of crime and the gym staff had told the officers that I had no history of disturbing other people and I was free to go. However, the entitled dad was hanging around near the back of the lobby watching me. The police saw this too and offered to give me a ride home since I'd walked to the gym. I accepted since I was pretty shocked by the whole ordeal and worried this guy would try something on my way home. In all, this was a really scary experience and I'm still shaking typing this. I'm just glad that the manager and the police were professional enough to let me speak my piece. I should mention there were other parents in the pool who didn't care about my presence. Another dad and his kids were playing right next to me and he didn't care. Edit, holy cow, I did not expect this post to be seen by so many people. Thank you so much for the support, guys. Let me give you a small update. I went back to the gym today to see if the same manager was on duty. Thankfully he was and he took me aside to explain his perspective on things. I'll call him Mike, not his real name. Apparently this Kevin seemed to be trouble from the start, being very irate with Mike as well as some other staff members. The only reason it wasn't the lifeguards dealing with him was because they were scared of him, being 17 to 18 year olds and this guy was an early 30s looking buff man. Even Mike, who was roughly the same age as the Kevin, was concerned with his behavior, thinking that if he got near me we'd end up throwing hands. hands. When Mike first told him that I'd offered to leave my goggles off so I wouldn't dive underwater, that apparently wasn't good enough. Then when the police arrived, Mike had actually just told them that he was concerned for my safety, nothing about the accusations. No wonder they were so nice. I then asked Mike if at any point he thought I was really a threat to the kids, and he laughed and said no, saying that when I'd mentioned I had kids of my own, the fact that I'd offered to apologize and attempt to de-escalate things, he could tell that I wasn't dangerous. He was thinking more about me being safe than whether or not I was a threat. The police seemed to think that way too. At one point after I left, Kevin was getting mouthy again, and a receptionist chewed him out for his actions. I wish I could have seen that. Then Mike asked if I made it home okay, and I told him about the police giving me a ride. Their car wasn't in sight of the building. He was relieved and hoped that this event hadn't put me off coming back. I do plan to come back to this gym now since I can count on the staff to have my back now. But yeah, everything is cool now and everybody knows what a twat this guy is. So I don't think I'm in any further trouble anymore. Oh, and to answer why I left, I was given the choice whether to go or not. No one told me to leave. I was planning on leaving a few minutes before this encounter anyway, so I didn't mind too much. It was only when the police officer caught the Kevin staring at me that they offered to give me a ride. Since someone in the comments suggested I asked for it, I asked if they had a police log number for what happened. Mike said they weren't given one, but offered to chase it up for me. I declined, not really wanting to put myself any further into an issue that seems more or less resolved anyway. I hope that clears a few things up. Whoa! Oh my god, that's bloody awful! I can't believe we just read that! I'm so sorry you had to go through that. That's bloody revolting. If you're the parents who brought their out-of-control infant to the Lion King on Broadway and didn't take them out when they were screaming the whole first half, congratulations, you win the Most Entitled Parents of the Year award. I'm so glad that you got to enjoy a show out, even though you obviously failed to find a babysitter. Never mind the rest of the theatre goers who also paid to see the show. How dense and self-centered can you be? Oh my god, Lion King on Broadway? Like even some random movie at the cinema and somebody was doing this? That'd be frustrating enough, let alone something like this. Like, oh no, it's totally fine that they're screaming and they have been screaming the entire time. I'm not gonna take them out. Yeah, that's unbelievably rude. So selfish. Yeah, like the top comment says, so incredibly rude. The establishment should have tossed him considering how disruptive that was. I'd definitely be asking for my money back or tickets for a new show. Yeah, and that's how it should be as well. You missed a lot of this show. And also, how embarrassing if you're that parent. I don't understand how they can do that and not feel so bad. Probably being self-centered and entitled. Okay, the next one is an update to a post we read in the last episode, I think. Update to my mother-in-law photoshopped my husband's nose on our wedding pictures. I'll play that post now for any of you guys who haven't seen that. But if you did watch the episode where I read this post, you can skip to this time on the screen. My mother-in-law photoshopped my husband's nose on our wedding pictures. How do I tell him? Okay, so first of all, why would you do that? I, 27 female, have been with my husband, 29 male, for 7 years. I remember that early in our relationship, one of the first things that he expressed insecurity about was his nose, specifically about its width. He never wanted surgery, but thinks his nose is too big for his face. I never thought that was true, and for a long time I wondered where he'd even gotten that idea from. Then I met his mother, and all my doubts went out the window. I don't hate her, but the woman complains about everything, and she seems particularly interested in criticizing her sons. Barely anything about my husband or his older brother is good enough for her, and if it is, she's quick to imply that they don't deserve it. According to my brother-in-law, that behavior didn't start until father-in-law passed away about 8 years ago, so they don't usually hold it against her. But to me, it seems like she legitimately doesn't want her children to be happy. Most times that we talk to her, my husband ends up devastated. She constantly complains about me, his job, our apartment, and his appearance. She has on more than one occasion suggested that he gets a nose job. That tends to upset him, so I always try to shut that down as quick as possible. We got married in early May. The photos were ready about 2 months later, and we created a shared album on Google Photos for our friends and family, including mother-in-law. I got pregnant during our honeymoon. Can't recommend Dubrovnik enough. And I'm now 24 weeks along. We've already had problems with mother-in-law concerning my pregnancy. We're having a boy, and she had a breakdown because she wanted a girl. That forced us to put her on an info diet. That was 2 months ago, and she's since improved her behavior. And because of that, we said yes when she invited us to go to a mall near her place to shop for baby clothes last Saturday. My husband had an emergency at work and ended up not coming, but we still managed to have a good time. When we were done, she invited me back to her place. I hadn't been there in a while, and I quickly saw that she'd gotten some of our wedding pictures up on the wall. I instantly noticed something was wrong with them, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was yet. Mother-in-law saw what I was looking at and proudly announced that she'd gotten someone to fix his nose. Oh my god. In other words, she gave her son a Photoshop nose job on his his wedding pictures. I couldn't believe it. I never thought she'd stoop so low. It wasn't even a good nose job. It was so bad that my husband's face didn't even look real. He looked like a Ken doll and not in the hot Ryan Gosling way. Mother-in-law must have seen how mad I got because she instantly tried to defend herself. She tried to make the point that her son deserved to look his best on his wedding day, and I should have convinced him to get the real nose job before our ceremony. I made up an excuse to leave, but I could tell that she knew the real reason. She's been calling and texting me almost every day since. I've been ignoring her, but she's always either apologizing, accusing me of overreacting, or begging me not to tell my husband. I know it seems trivial, but I'm so outraged, and the more I think about it, the more disgusted I get. I could never imagine doing something like that to my child. I haven't told my husband yet, mostly because we've both been busy with work this week, but also because I have no idea how to. His mother was finally starting to be a better person around him and his brother, and I know it'll break his heart to find out about this. I don't know what to do. I have to tell him, but I can't figure out how. I know he loves his mother, and I don't want to damage whatever relationship they still have. Mother-in-law also mentioned that she intended to send the improved pictures to some of her relatives, so I have to find a way to shut that down. So how can I tell my husband that his mother photoshopped his face on our wedding pictures? More importantly, what would be the most peaceful way to do it? That's the most ridiculous thing ever. Like, obviously, it's so awful, but at the same time, how do they expect them not to find out? Yeah, so why is my face completely altered on our wedding photos? Hey dudes, I'm back. Thank you to everyone who took the time to offer me advice on my last post. First of all, I want to clarify that not telling my husband what his mother did was never an option. She wouldn't remove the pictures from her house unless I either told him or threatened her. Had I done the latter, she could use that against me in the future or even imply that I agreed with her. Plus, he was bound to find out at some point, and I knew it'd be better if it came from me. I asked how to do it, not whether I should. So I sat him down last Saturday and I broke the news. I explained what the pictures were and mother-in-law's excuses for them. I also showed him the text that she had sent me since the visit. The whole conversation, I was calm and straightforward, but I made it very clear that not only did mother-in-law's actions completely disgust me, but I never agreed with her about his appearance. He's the most gorgeous man I've ever met, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with his nose. I also made sure to point out that the Photoshop nose made him look like front-facing Phineas from Phineas and Ferb, and mother-in-law needs to get her eyes checked if she thought that looked good. I thought the news would hurt him, and I was right. He didn't cry or anything, but I could see it in his face, the odd but common combination of disappointment and acceptance. He knew that his mother wouldn't change, but still had some hope. It was almost heartbreaking to watch, but for the first time in a while, he seemed to believe me when I said that his nose was normal. He told me that now he knew just how ridiculous mother-in-law was willing to be. Her opinion meant a lot less to him, so even though he is hurt, he feels stronger than ever. As many of you suggested, I told him that he was free to approach the situation however he pleased, but I don't want to be around his mother anymore. Most importantly, I don't want her to be around our son or any other kids that we might have, not only because of the guilt-tripping tantrums that have become her standard behavior, but also because of the way that she treats the people she's supposed to love. I know she loves her family, but I doubt she knows how love works, and if she's willing to treat her sons like this, I fully expect her to be even worse to her grandchildren. In the end, my husband and I decided we're going very low contact with mother-in-law until the holidays. Some of his relatives are having a party the week before Christmas, and she'll be there. We thought about skipping it, but he has cousins that he hasn't seen in years coming to the party. He's been looking forward to seeing them for months, and it doesn't feel fair to let mother-in-law ruin his excitement. After the holidays, we'll decide how to proceed. Regardless, she won't be allowed to see our son at the hospital when he's born, and once we bring him home, she won't be left alone with the baby. It doesn't matter how much she tries to improve. That's not something that we're willing to budge on. In spite of everything, my husband doesn't want to cut ties with his mother, and I understand that. Even if he wanted to, we can't go fully no contact without cutting off the rest of his maternal family as well, which he is firmly against. What works best at the moment is to treat her like Domino's Pizza. She exists, and that's okay, but we're not getting involved until she actually improves. Wow, that's so funny. I also decided to tell some of my own family about this, and everyone I've talked to agrees that mother-in-law went over the line. My father's a narcissist who I'm low contact with due to his entitled behavior. Most recently, he tried to make me disinvite his ex from my wedding so he could bring his mistress, and even he was offended on my husband's behalf. And if even my mediocre respect your elders father thinks that your children are right about you being an a-hole, you've probably gone too far. We talked to my brother-in-law, and he's the one who informed my mother-in-law of our decision. She didn't take the news well. She's now trying to call both me and my husband, and keeps texting apologies and promises to take the pictures down. We're ignoring her. Brother-in-law visited her yesterday, and apparently the pictures are gone. She believed that that was enough for us to forgive her, but he clarified that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Before anyone calls this dramatic, this isn't just about the Photoshop. It's about the damage she caused in both her sons' lives. I was abused in a similar fashion in my teens by dad's ex, and I refuse to allow my child to grow up believing that he's anything less than beautiful. And same goes for my husband. That's all. Again, thank you guys. Yeah, and good on you for putting your foot down with her as well and creating these sorts of boundaries. Like, yes, super low contact definitely sounds like a good idea. You're looking after your family, and that's beautiful. The next one is called Entitled Dad Gets Pissy at Me for Not Letting Him Break the Law. I sell archery gear, and bow hunting is highly regulated here. Only pest species are allowed to be hunted, nothing native. This guy calls up, and the following conversation occurs. C. Hi, I just moved here, and I wanted to buy a bow to hunt snakes. Me. Okay, I should probably tell you that. C. That it's illegal. I know, but I still want to do it. He knows it's illegal, but still asked me. Red flag alert. Me. I can't sell you equipment if I know you're gonna use it to break the law. C. Fine, whatever. I'm not gonna hunt snakes with it. Me. But you are. You already said you are. At this point, the customer knows he already messed up by telling me his intentions. C. Well, how can I move forward with this? Me. My recommendation is to contact your local pest control services for snake removal if you're having a snake problem. C. No, I mean, how can I move forward with buying a bow from you? Me. I'm not selling you anything that I know will be used to break the law. C. I know they're a protected species, but I have to protect my kids. I have the right to protect them from dangerous wildlife. Me. They're a protected species for a reason. You don't have the right to kill them just because they're dangerous, and I can't condone the behavior that you're advocating for. There are legal ways to deal with this problem. C. Oh, Mr. High and Mighty over here. You sell equipment knowing that it'll be used to kill innocent Bambis, but a dangerous snake is crossing the line. You're a freaking hypocrite. Me. Hunting deer is legal because they're a pest species that destroys native flora and fauna, and they need to be culled as they have no natural predators here. Snakes live here natively, and they're an important part of the ecosystem. In these circumstances, you're the deer, a dangerous pest species that is a threat to the native wildlife. C. My kids come first, and F you and F the government for protecting snakes, and none of you can tell me what to do, and no law is going to stop me from me. Goodbye. And at that point, I hung up. I understand the desire to protect your kids, but this entitled attitude and complete disregard for the law is unsettling. Wow, trying to get snakes with a bow and arrow and using the excuse that they want to protect their kids, and they want to use a bow and arrow to do this? What? That's so confusing, because obviously imagine how hard it would be to hit something the shape of a snake with a bow and arrow, and say they were good enough at archery to be able to do that. That would mean they would have needed to practice like every single day for years, which means that they would already have a bow and they wouldn't need to buy one. So what are they doing? Just trying to go and shoot stuff that they're definitely gonna miss anyway? What? It doesn't even make any sense. But yeah, it sounds like you handled this so well. The next one is called Parents Brought a Screeching Baby to Five Nights at Freddy's. This happened a few hours ago and I'm still pissed. I went to see Five Nights at Freddy's last night since it was sold out on Friday, and at every theater by me during the daytime, I found a theater by me that was showing Five Nights at Freddy's well until 11 p.m, so I figured that it would be dead. It wasn't really, but it was still okay. 9:40 p.m, the time where tiny children should be asleep, right? No. Everyone is sitting down, and when the movie starts, the theater goes quiet till the murmurs of a baby can be heard. A kid around 7 comes in, and then a dad, and then a screeching baby and a mum. They came in right as the movie started, and they were loud the entire time. Now, this kid didn't cry at the jump scares. Instead, it kept making sounds for the entire run of the movie, and I mean louder than the movie sounds. The people around me were pissed, and they kept shushing the child as it waddled and ran up and down the aisle that they were in. The parents acted as if we were crazy and kept on ignoring their whining, screaming baby as if it'd just go away. People would leave and complain, and when movie people came in, we saw hope that they'd be asked to leave. Instead, they looked around for the earbleed demon, and they left as soon as they couldn't locate the screeches. At that point, the kid said, "Mama, gah, gah, gah." It's like the kid is right there. The mum took the kid out for like 5 minutes and then came back in loudly and said, "Mama really wants to see the movie." Put the kid on the ground and let it continue to run around. The father ignored the kid. The older child seemed unbothered, like he didn't even hear a peep from the kid the entire time. Crotch Goblin would go quiet for like 10 seconds, enough time for some hope, and then continue to run around, and then semi-sleep on the chairs, that annoying thing that bored kids do, and just be a menace to the theater. And you can feel the vibe in the theater. We aren't scared. We're all pissed. At least I know my row was, since they were right ahead of us. So the screeching wasn't even muffled. It was like an eardrum destruction. Then, right as the movie ended, and I mean the first credits came on, even before the lights turned back on, they were gone. Now they leave? What the hell? It pisses me off so much. Cause screw the parents and screw the theater for allowing this BS. We all pay insane amounts of money just to see a movie. I've waited so long for this, and I just wanted one one nice evening out, and these families come in and the theater people see the baby and they say nothing. Oh, you're gonna take your 1-year-old into The Conjuring 2? Happened to me. Yeah, I see nothing wrong with that. In my opinion, theater should be for 7+, because at 7 you should be old enough to just be quiet. I don't really hate the babies, even though I dislike kids, because they're too young to understand what be quiet means, or what sit still means, but come on. No one deserves to have their movie ruined by kids. To have kids cry all throughout the beginning of Endgame because Thanos got his stupid head chopped off, or for kids to screech because the Emperor is scary. Boo-hoo, he was on the screen for what, 2 seconds? And then it was over. Or for kids to ask, why is Batman? A million freaking times. PG-13 or 14A should still mean something. It should mean that if your kid isn't 13, they can't get in. They don't get to get in and scream and cry during the whole movie. That's the point of most kids' movies, is that scary stuff is limited. And I had this happen when I was a kid, and my grandparents took me to see Pirates of the Caribbean, and Davy Jones scared the hell out of me. But you know what they did? They took me home. They didn't let me scream and cry during the whole movie and ruin everybody else's day. They understood that I was too young and they took me home. It's not that hard. And I get it, if you don't have a sitter, that sucks, but why would you want to punish everybody else? Edit, for those saying I should ask for a refund, I should point out that the theater isn't in the best shape, and by the time I got there were no employees around. It was 11:40 and I waited around for a bit, but there was no one. I was pissed and I left for my bus. When another movie I saw there had a technical issue, they gave us vouchers that were expired, and then the theater closed for a few years. I avoided the place for years, but I went back last year and I saw the Batman. The roof was dripping water and I had no clue if it was a part of the movie or IRL. I found out when the lights came on. The staff aren't helpful and they disappear, or as I said in the story, they don't do anything. People complain they came in to take a look for the kid. It's a small theater room, it wasn't that hard. And after 20 seconds of barely looking, they left. Never going there again. For anybody interested, it was a Cineplex and they suck. It's a crappy theater, but I've never encountered entitled people there, since the town it's in is kinda sketchy. I figured that the worst I'd encounter is my seat breaking, again LMAO, or the projector breaking, again lol. And you said that multiple different people went out to complain, but the staff will come in and they wouldn't find them and then they'd leave. That's so awful for the staff to not even try and handle this. Cause yeah, of course, you'd get up and you'd go and find some staff to help, but you said that people did that and they still didn't do anything. That's so bad. I feel like you should straight up be sending complaints in about this, and also never going there again. The next one is called Entitled Stepmom is Getting Her Family to Harass Me Because I Won't Compromise My Faith. So some background context is required to fully understand my situation. I, 23 male, am the younger of my brother, 26 male. My mum was old school Catholic and my dad was an atheist. Me and my brother were raised Catholic. My dad never minded. When I was about 11, my parents got a divorce and my dad got custody. My mum changed after the divorce. Me and my brother are no contact with her. A little while after me and my brother started being outspoken atheists to stick it to mum. In reality, my brother was just coming into his own and the church just didn't have a place in his life. And I was the kid brother who followed his big brother. My dad almost instantly remarried to a woman that I affectionately called the witch as a kid, because I didn't know how my dad loved her without her putting a spell on him. She was rude, elitist, gold digging, a total Karen. My dad changed too because of her. He still loved us and he tried his best with us. I will defend that he was a good father. His only flaw is his taste in women, but he never really was the same and always curtailed to his wife. As a kid, I was plagued by night terrors. I barely slept most of middle school. Of course, my stepmother's suggestion was medication and therapy. Nothing against it, but it wasn't what I needed. I know now that I have trauma relating to my mother's abuse and her encouraging my brother to... You know what? Oh my god. One day I was searching through some old boxes and I found my communion cross gifted to me. Because of the nostalgia of a time I had an actual family, I hung it on my wall. I slept like a baby for the first time in years. That was sophomore year of high school. I realized that I felt safe around Catholic symbols. It's not like anything else in that time of my life was comforting me. So I started escaping my home in the local church. The congregation accepted me and I even started apprenticing with a blacksmith who went to the church. Around the start of junior year, I was a born-again Catholic. I wore a cross that I forged myself every day. On the face, my father and stepmother were supportive, and if Karen wasn't around, my dad genuinely supported me, drove me to church and such, but my stepmother would ask that I not wear a cross out when there's guests over. Also, one of her favorite things to do is to give house tours to lord over them how much her husband makes and how nice her house was. After I decorated my room with some religious items, she stopped showing off my room, which I did not mind. She also screamed at me if I ever dared to leave my Bible anywhere outside of my room. She would also make snide comments constantly. This is already too long of context, so I'll paraphrase. At 18, I enlisted and I served 5 years in the Marines. I got back home. I'm crashing in my old room until me and my brother can rent rent an apartment together and I start college, my stepmom introduced me to a daughter of her friends. She was pretty and nice when I met her, and I could tell the two mothers were trying to get us together, so I decided to go with it. We went on 2 dates, and while we didn't really connect, I was having a fun time playing civilian, so I decided to keep going. The friction started in the planning of the 3rd date over text. The only day she had available was Sunday. I told her I was volunteering Sunday afternoon. She asked what about the morning, have a breakfast date. I said I had church. She said I didn't know you were religious. I replied, yeah, I am, and I offered she'd come along too, to volunteer with me. I'm helping the church with a small fair, local artist selling work to raise money for the church. She was an artist, so I thought she'd like it. She just declined and stopped texting me. That was 2 days ago. Yesterday I come back from a run to my stepmom and the girl's mum having brunch. I grabbed some water and I had a cordial conversation. The topic of the 3rd came up and they asked why I didn't go. Confused, I said I would go. I just had plans Sunday and we needed to find a new date, and explained what I was doing. My stepmom said in a half annoyed voice, oh, you're still on that? I learned from an early age that I can't even engage with her, so I just said, yeah, I am, and walked away to beat my frustrations out on a knife that I was working on. Well, apparently the mere mention that I was still in my religious phase gave the girl an ick. Well, last night she knocked on my door and asked to talk, but she barged in before I could even say no, and then she started talking at me about how a girl like that comes once in a lifetime, and I shouldn't be vindictive just because she doesn't share my delusions. That confused the hell out of me because I was the only one that was ghosted, and I never did anything to be vindictive. So I asked her what she meant, and she went on one of her "my voice is calm, so I'm right" rants about how I should have cancelled my plans to take her out on that Sunday, and just because my church says that men can treat women however they want doesn't mean they can. At that point I left the room. She's impossible to fight with, and if she gets angry then all hell breaks loose. I learnt that on Christmas Eve when I was kicked out and left in the cold when I was 14. After that I haven't heard the end of it from stepmom. I just lost a good girl over a myth, or women don't like stuck-up men, and as per usual my dad is staying out of it. As for the girl I was set up with, I don't really care. I mean, it's her choice, and honestly I'm trying to ask out a childhood friend anyway. I think I was just being nice by taking her out. I also don't care that my family is atheist. They have every right to believe what they want. Hell, I served 5 years to protect that right, and I personally believe that the worst sin one can commit is to deny someone their convictions, but it's getting hard not saying something back. The rest of my family is either backing her or not getting into it. My step-aunts are sending me atheist articles and other gotcha pieces about how Sky Daddy doesn't exist. I'm literally the only member of my family I have a relationship with that's not outspokenly atheist. I'm already a black sheep for enlisting instead of going to an Ivy League college and not selling my soul to politics or business. I've asked them to stop, but my wishes aren't being respected because they need to unbrainwash me. It's getting annoying. I don't want to go low to no contact because I love my dad and they're apparently a package deal. My brother, being the only rational person, is backing me. He thinks the whole thing's stupid and is putting in more time looking for apartments for us so we can just leave the house. I'm not hopeful that they'll come around and accept me, but I'm not compromising my faith because my step-family wants to be snooty. Update: thank y'all for the advice. Just to respond to the general answers I'm getting, I'm not going to be petty and try to show her up, act holier than thou to piss her off or generally cause a problem. I'm going to turn to the other cheek and live my life. For those saying I have blinders for my dad, that's probably true, but I'm not going to abandon the man who raised me, taught me everything it means to be a man just because of his wife. My religion has nothing to do with my mother. I chose Catholicism out of my own free will, not because my abusive mother controlled me. A lot of you guys have had bad experiences with faith, I get that. I don't want to discount that, but it's what held me together during my worst moments, and it's been warped by people to their own ends, and that greedy, vindictive side is what most people see. Wow, that's so awful. The stepmom sounds like something else. I can't even imagine having to deal with somebody like that. Yeah, like this comment says, your stepmom is clearly nuts, you clearly are not, and if a girl is going to ghost you over being religious, it was never going anywhere in the first place. All the best with your apartment search. It's good to know that your brother has your back. Yeah, like why did they want them to date this person so much? Was it because it was their friend's kid? You said they were a gold digger, so maybe they had money or something. Either way, they didn't even know what was actually going on, and they're using it as an excuse to be mean to you. Entitled Mum is mad that I intend to convert the guest room into my office after the birth of my second kid. I'm currently 21 weeks pregnant with my second baby. Both my husband and I work from home full time. We recently decided that my current office will be a great room for the nursery for the new baby. We started packing up and moving stuff around in preparation. My mum is currently visiting from out of the country and staying with us. She saw what we were doing and commented, "So you and your hubby are gonna both squeeze into his small office?" I told her that's not the case. I intended to convert the guest room into my office once the second kid is old enough to attend daycare or preschool at around 18 months, but we're gonna put a sofa bed in there or have some Japanese futon, so in case that we do have guests, they'll have a place to sleep and chill out in after I get off work. Interestingly, I've told her that plan in the past over video chat, and she thought it was a good idea back then. She claimed to have no recollection of that conversation even happening, and immediately proceeded to get passive-aggressive with me, saying, okay, fine, I won't visit again then. I had to remind her that it's not happening until at least 2 years from now, and there will still be space for her to come and stay when she does come to visit. Besides, when my husband and I are working during the day, we hardly spend any time in the living room or family room. She has access to all of those spaces. She essentially sees our current guest room as her room and expects us to keep it that way for the foreseeable future, for the few days out of the year that she comes and visits us. Besides that, it'll just be a vacant bedroom that no one spends any time in. Yeah, they can't be upset about this. How ridiculous! She complained to my dad, who actually confirmed that I have indeed spoken to them about my plan. So now she's also embarrassed at getting called out for opposing to what she had said in the past. She felt like she was entitled to that room in my house, even though she spends only around 1 month total out of the year visiting us. She's been giving me the silent treatment since the argument, and whenever I try to talk to her, she'd answer with a ton of attitude and pretty much told me to F off. Both my husband and I find her reaction ridiculous, and we're not ready to coddle up to her unreasonable demand just to keep her happy. Yeah, that's right, and they should be apologizing to you for this. It's your bloody house. They're not entitled to any room in the house. They're lucky that you let them stay. That's so annoying because it is so ridiculous, and the fact that they think they're in the right is hilarious. I can't believe they're upset at you. Like, this is not their decision. Yeah, unbelievable. The next one says, well, I finally had my first entitled parent experience in the mall parking lot. I had my first encounter with an entitled mother today. Off to the mall for a pair of winter shoes so I don't slush my dang socks. Lucky me, a spot really close to the entrance is open. As I'm creeping up to the spot, there's a woman with a baby strapped to her chest and someone I assume is a sister or a friend or whatever walking up the laneway. They looked like they were just going into the mall, but then they stood in the spot I was trying to pull into. Sensational. I waved, they ignored me. I tapped my horn and they waved me off saying that they're saving the spot for their friend. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear birds in the background, guys. I've got my window open. I pretty much told them that that isn't how a parking lot works and that I'm not moving. Entitled mum then looks at me and starts going on about how she has a baby and that she should get to park closer to the mall because of her baby. I roll. I tell her I don't bloody care about her baby. Back and forth with her insisting that she won't move, and for some dumb reason starts going on about, I dare you to hit me. Like, dude, I'm not insane. And you were just going on about your baby. Since you wouldn't move, I just laid on the horn until this big red truck that had a guy they were with started to come up behind me. Lo and behold, there was an open space literally only 2 spaces down that the red truck pulled into. Meanwhile, the mum and the other woman she was with do walk out of the space, calling me every name in the book. B-arch, a C-word, you know what. How they can't believe I made a new mother move. Honestly, it felt like a YouTube rage bait video. I'm staying by my car because I genuinely don't trust crazy people not to do crazy things to my car. The guy who was driving their truck just looked down at his phone while the women told me off for endangering their baby as they all walked past to go inside. Honestly, I like to think that he was embarrassed. I don't know what makes people think that 1, I care about your kids, and 2, that you can stand in parking spaces to claim dibs. Yeah, like the top comment says, wow, she must really care about her baby if she's willing to risk injury or death to spite a stranger. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't even make sense with what they're saying. And also, how does the parking space even make a difference to them? And it especially doesn't bother their child. And also, they said they had their baby strapped to their chest. So how does the position of the car even matter? It doesn't, does it? Like, not only am I going to be super entitled and frustrating, I'm also going to make sure that it doesn't make any sense. The next one says, parents always dump their kids with me at family events. Me, Sarah F, or female, others family members. It seems that quite a few people have similar stories here as mine, and how I handled it. I was probably a bit of an a-hole at the end of it all. I never wanted to be a babysitter, but somehow that's what I always ended up being at every family gathering. It didn't matter if I barely knew the kids or their parents, they'd always find a way to dump them on me and disappear. It started when I was 14 and continued until I was in my 30s. I'd moved away from my extended family when I was 5, so I didn't see them very often, but whenever there was a birthday, a wedding, or a holiday, they would invite me and my parents to join them, and that's when the trouble began. The first time it happened, I was sitting at a table with my cousin and his wife, who just had a baby. They seemed nice enough, but as soon as they finished their food, they handed me the baby and said they were going to get some drinks. They didn't even ask me if I wanted to hold him, or if I knew how to take care of him. They just assumed I'd be happy to do it. Oh my god, that's infuriating. I wasn't. I'd never held a baby before, and I had no idea what to do with him. He was tiny and fragile and he smelled like milk and diapers. He started crying after a few minutes and I panicked. I tried to rock him, to sing to him, to make funny faces at him. Nothing worked. He only cried louder and louder, attracting the attention of everyone in the room. I looked around for his parents, hoping they would come back and rescue me, but they were nowhere to be seen. They'd left me alone with their child without a word of explanation or an apology. I felt angry and betrayed. How could they do this to me? This happened many times over the years until I'd had enough. The last time it happened, when I was now in my 30s, at a party with my husband's family, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Once again, parents came over to introduce themselves and they left their baby with me, even though I clearly told them I was uncomfortable with doing so, but it would only be for a minute. Is somebody telling them that they're allowed to do this or something? Why do they feel like they can do this? What's wrong with people? 10 minutes pass, 30 minutes pass. As the hour mark approaches and the baby is getting very fussy, I got up from the table, carrying the baby with me, and I walked towards the bar where I'd last seen them. I pushed my way through the crowd of people, ignoring their stares and comments. I finally spotted them, laughing and chatting with some other relatives with their glasses of wine in hand. They looked relaxed and happy, oblivious to my plight. I marched up to them and I thrust the baby into their arms. "Here," I said, "take your kid back." They looked at me with surprise and annoyance. "What's wrong?" my sister-in-law asked. "What's wrong?" I repeated incredulously. "You left me with your baby for an hour without even asking me or telling me where you were going. You expected me to babysit him while you had fun. That's what's wrong." They exchanged shocked glances. "We're sorry," her husband said. "We just wanted to catch up with everyone. We didn't think you'd mind." "Yeah, but you also didn't even care to ask." "Well, I do mind," I said firmly. "I'm not your babysitter. I'm your bloody sister-in-law. And I came here to enjoy myself, not to look after your kid." They mumbled some more apologies and excuses, but I didn't listen. I turned around and I walked away from them, feeling proud of myself for standing up to them. I thought that'd be the end of it, but it wasn't. The next time I saw them, they had another baby, and they tried to do the same thing again. What? This is awful. And so did other relatives who had kids. In multiple occasions, it became a pattern. Every time there was a family event, someone would dump their kid on me and disappear. It didn't matter if they were my aunties, uncles, cousins, or in-laws. They all seemed to think that because I was an only child, and because I don't have kids of my own, that I would love to play nanny for them. They were wrong. I hated it. I hated being treated like a free service. I hated being ignored and taken for granted. I hated being stuck with kids who were nosy, messy, demanding, and sometimes rude. I hated missing out on the fun and the conversations that everyone else was having. I hated feeling like an outsider in my own family, so I stopped going. I stopped accepting their invitations. They didn't seem to notice or care either. They never even asked why I stopped coming. They never even apologized for what they did, and they never tried to make it up to me. They just moved on with their lives without me in family parties or events, and so did I. Edit. It sounded in the original post that I stopped seeing family altogether. I still see them, just never in a party or family gathering situation, and they're acting like nothing ever happened and life goes on. I love hanging out with the family outside of the party or gathering situations, and to be fair, the kids are great fun to be around as long as I'm not expected to babysit them, which I never once said that I was okay with at any point. At the end of the day, we're all still family, and I think they got the message that I'm not their babysitter. They do now treat me with respect when I see them on the rare occasion for a visit, and maybe by standing up for myself to people I care about and love was that reason. I feel like the way you handled this was perfect. Like, you weren't unnecessarily rude in any way, even though you bloody had the right to be rude. They sure as hell didn't care about being rude. But yeah, good on you for standing up for yourself, and at least it has a bit of a happy ending. It's so infuriating that they feel like they could even do this though. Like, oh, here you go, babysit for me. I'm not even gonna ask you if you want to. Imagine having the audacity to do that. But yeah, I think you handled this well, and I think you did a good job not to get even more angry. The next one is called Entitled Mum Wants to Pay Me $3.07 an hour to watch her kids. Basically what the title says, an entitled mum reached out to me asking if I could watch her kids for 13 hours a week for $40. She wants me to 1, watch 2 kids under 5, 2, cook them meals, and 3, clean her home. Right, so multiple jobs in one. My usual rate for a job like that would be $15 to $20 an hour, given my experience and skills and qualifications, and what the job is asking for. When I told her my rate, she cussed me out and told me it would be a privilege to watch her kids, and that I should just take the job since I obviously needed the money. Oh my god, I'm hoping that's not real. It's a privilege to watch your kids? Have you lost your mind? No, it isn't. They're so entitled that they have a completely skewed perspective of reality. Like, oh, the entire universe revolves around me, doesn't it? I don't understand how somebody can say, oh, it's a privilege to watch my kids, with a straight face, like they're serious when they say that. That's hilarious. The next one is called Entitled Mum Changes and Breastfeeds Her Baby in Her Private Office. Hi folks, this is a repost post of something I experienced today. I currently work in a private office building of a very busy public attraction. The building is newly renovated and we don't have much signage, but it is pretty clear that it's an office space since you can see our offices through the ground floor window. One of our doors backs onto the area of the attraction and is usually unlocked as staff come and go frequently. My co-worker came back from their break and informed me that there was a random woman changing a dirty diaper in the stairwell. She was told to go to the correct changing facilities nearby, which is legitimately around the corner. Another co-worker then informed me that the woman did not leave and had also started breastfeeding her child in the same place. She was then told to leave in a more harsh way. This place has loads of available changing areas for babies and many of them are near the building. Her excuse for her behavior was the baby was crying. Like, why would you bring a crying baby into an office building? She definitely knew that it wasn't a public area. Edit, there are plenty of feeding and changing facilities for parents at this attraction. I don't have any opinions against breastfeeding, and I think people are entitled to breastfeed wherever. It's the fact that she chose to stay in a place that she was told to leave multiple times that's the main issue. Definitely, especially when there are places around really close that they can use, but they're choosing not to. Yeah, 100%, that's the bad part. Like, hey, everything's okay, but this is a private office building. Yeah, it's less about what they were doing and that they're just not allowed to be there. I was gonna say, unless they're super hard to find, like the place they're supposed to be doing this, but it says in the comments the correct facilities are a minute walk away and signposted very publicly, including across the entrance. The next one says, my mum always steals food from me. My family and I are all eating a hamburger. She comes to my seat and asks me for a piece, even though there are ingredients in the kitchen or on the table to make another one, and I can make one for her without any issues. We're eating a pizza, same thing. She always takes some from me. Are we eating the exact same thing? She always takes some from me. Just earlier it happened again and I replied, there's another slice of bread in the kitchen. Why do you have to take it from my plate without asking? She says to me, it's to be nice to your mum. And I say to her, but it's a matter of principle. It's annoying that you always have to take food from me. It's enough, don't you think? And she remains silent. What do you think? Yeah, like the top comment says, yeah, it's not about the food, just a power move. You're doing the right thing. Yeah, it really does seem like that. And yeah, that would be very frustrating. The next one says, entitled mum brings her 4 kids to an adult-only wedding. I attended an adult-only wedding for a co-worker a few days ago. The actual ceremony was in a very small church, so it was mostly family and close friends. The reception was at a very elegant hotel ballroom, not child-friendly in any way, crystal stemware, expensive linens on the table, etc. Also, sorry, but I don't know if we've read this one before. It didn't sound familiar, but we've read so many stories that I don't really know, so hopefully not. About half an hour into the reception, a commotion started that made everybody stare. Entitled mum is arguing with the wedding planner loudly. Me being nosy that I am, I inched closer to hear. Turns out that entitled mum brought her 4 young children to the reception. Even though invitations clearly stated adults only, the entitled mum insisted that her kids, I'm guessing at ages, but the oldest one looked 8-ish, and the youngest was under a year-old, insisted that they were super well behaved, so it was fine. Now keep in mind, this was around 7:30 PM. The wedding planner was having none of it. She insisted that children were not allowed and she had to leave. In a last-ditch effort to get admitted, entitled mum shouted at the bride. The bride went over and listened to her for a moment and then said in a syrupy sweet voice, of course you can come in, but your children can't. She turned on her heel and went back to her new husband. Entitled mum flipped a nut, yelling about how she was invited, couldn't find a babysitter, etc. 3 of the groomsmen escorted her and her kids to the door. Oh my god, and good on them too. For kicking them out, I mean. Like, yeah, no kids, okay? And like they said, they already caused a commotion. I'm so glad that they were like, no, you're not gonna ruin this, okay? You've got to get out of here. And that's so fair enough. The next one says, Karen secretly films me jogging and shows the video to my boss. I recently had an appendectomy and recovery has been slow. I had to take time off from my own athletics, but worse, from coaching in the kids sports program that I'm involved with. The experience made me step back and realize that I really built my whole identity around being active and healthy. So the hit that my physical abilities took as a result of being sick, plus the healing process has made me feel lost. I've been working to regain the joy I used to experience from exercise without going, oh, you used to be so much faster with that, or your technique used to be so much stronger, or you don't fit in anymore, or whatever else, and just enjoy myself regardless of the level I'm at. But ironically, the anxiety about not being able to do what I used to has made regaining those abilities difficult. It made me self-conscious about exercising in public spaces, but I was starting to finally get over it as friends convinced me the source of the concerns were all in my head. There's no way to get back to it other than training, so despite the anxiety, I started running again. As soon as the doctors approved it, I went to the local track and just did a few slow laps each morning, building up speed every few days, and I've only just been authorized to add some sprints and bodyweight strength training into the mix. Occasionally there were other people at the track, but I didn't really notice because I run with headphones on and I try to zone out in these lighter sessions. But little did I know my friends were wrong. It was not all in my head. I was being watched, and more than that, I was being judged. My absolute catastrophe level worst nightmare at this stage of building back my strength and speed. On Friday, I was setting up for practice at the kids program, and the head coach asked me into his office because a parent had a complaint. A parent that I didn't know too well. Karen was there, and he said that she had specific complaints about me. The meeting almost didn't happen because of Karen's initial refusal to put on a mask, required in our facilities at the moment, but eventually her desire to tell on me for whatever she thought she had me on overrode her freedoms to infect everyone. I was a bit nervous, as anyone is being called to meet their boss over a complaint, but I figured that it was a classic case of my kid should start more, or I know my kid tried out as a midfielder, but I want him or her to switch to defense. That kind of rules don't apply to me thing. But instead, I sit down in my office and Karen is playing my boss a video of me running on the track that she filmed from afar. It's surrounded by stadium-style risers. I was horrified, both because no one is ever totally used to seeing themselves on video, and because I was just embarrassed about how slow I was. But most importantly, because I was a virtual stranger, I'd met her personally maybe 4 times ever, filming me while I ran on my own time at a private facility. She then went on to explain that her 8-year-old son, one of the players on my squad, was lapping me in the video and insisting the coaches need to hold themselves to a higher athletic standard than the young players if they want to prepare them for college teams. Again, her son is 8. Wow, this is so bad. Apparently her son would sometimes be running on the track while her older child was practicing on a nearby field. I never noticed. The kid is still relatively new, and I don't pay much attention to the other people on the track. My boss patiently but firmly explained to Karen that my physical abilities are not the parents' concern, and all personnel are closely managed by the head coaches who understand each unique situation and what's appropriate, and that her son would not be impacted. Karen then went on to say that me being out of shape was probably connected to why I'd been taking so much time off lately. Oh, well, technically, yeah. It is because I was in the hospital, and complaining that the personnel changeover isn't good for the kids. My boss again reiterated that the head coaches hadn't changed or taken any time off, and that I was still one of the most skilled in the area that I instruct, so this was not her concern. She asked if there was someone else that she could speak to, but he explained that he was the owner and founder of this program, so no, there was not. I knew that my boss was intentionally avoiding saying what had happened to me, or even alluding to a health issue to protect my privacy, but I figured that maybe being transparent with her would show her how ridiculous she was being, and keep her tuition dollars in our program during a difficult time. But when I explained, she just turned to the boss and said, well, maybe you should furlough her until she's healed and bring on a healthy coach in the meantime, because my son needs someone out there who can keep up with him. My boss respected what I was trying to do, but made clear that we weren't going any further with that strategy to avoid setting a precedent of sharing coaches' personal circumstances, telling her that why people take time off or what their health status may be is not her concern, because the program manages that and makes appropriate decisions. She kept kicking up a fuss, but the coach finally told her that he had to get back out on the field, back to her son and everyone else's kids. She started physically leaving, but continued fussing about how she wasn't satisfied and would not be recommending us to other parents. The coach wasn't preparing to leave. Instead, he stopped her in her tracks to tell her if she was found to be surveilling or otherwise harassing any staff members again, she would be perma-banned from the program. No games or practices, no team social events, no presence in our buildings, and no clemency. So yeah, that was pretty satisfying. Her son is a good average kid, and I'm glad the consequences were focused on booting her out rather than limiting his opportunities to have fun playing. So then we went out and had a great, happy, safe practice. This was still a pretty upsetting event for me personally though, and I'll never unsee that discouraging video of me running. It was ultimately reassuring to know that the other staff have my back. Leaving Karen in the dust is just another step on my road to recovery. Edit, reading comments between breaks from schoolwork, but the outpouring of support has meant so much. Thank you all. You're being so optimistic, but yeah, that's so frustrating. The fact that somebody feels like they can do stuff like this is infuriating, but yeah, you're right. At least your boss had your back. Still though, that's awful. The next one says, I'm not OP. I pulled this from Am I the A-hole? Am I the A-hole for confronting a neighbor who was rude to my son at trick or treat because of a rule I'd never heard of? I, 27 female, took my 4-year-old son trick or treating on Halloween, as normal parents do. He was so adorable in his costume and his joy was infectious. We went along house after house, a lot of smiles, exclamations of how cute he was, and of course, loads of candy. Then we came to one house. We rang the bell. Initially there was no answer, but I could see there were lights on in the house, so clearly people were home. Also, I heard shuffling behind the door. Clearly they were looking through the peephole to see who was there. I rang again, and then after 2 more minutes I rang a third time, and the woman opened the door with a nasty look, and before my son could even say trick or treat, she pointed to her porch light and rudely said, "Porch light off means don't ring here," and started started to close the door. The look on my little boy's face was so heartbreaking, I could not let that nastiness slide. Oh my god, you're the entitled parent. I was reading this thinking that they were talking about entitled parents, but no, you're the entitled parent. Stop bloody ringing the door. They don't want to do this. The look on my little boy's face was so heartbreaking, I could not let that nastiness slide. Plus, I'd never heard of such a rule, and I told her so, and asked her how she could break a little boy's heart like that. She repeated the rule and said that she didn't have any candy anyway, and to please leave her alone. I asked what kind of idiot doesn't make sure to have some bare minimum candy around on October 31st, like use a damn calendar. She said not everyone wants to be a part of Halloween and slammed the door in my face. I comforted my poor son, explained that some people are just terrible Grinches, and we moved on to a few more houses, but the night was ruined. It got worse. I got back home and I saw my phone had insane notifications. Apparently this woman had recorded the whole interaction on her door camera and posted it to the local neighborhood Facebook group. Anyway, the backlash was so bad I had to leave the group. I'm still getting horrible DMs. Apparently the porch light rule is real. It's a way to signal that you're opting out of Halloween. Who the hell wants to opt out of Halloween? Oh my god, so many people. What do you mean? Even my husband won't back me up. He knew the rule, and while he's sympathetic to the social media abuse I'm getting, he said it was stupid of me to engage when she clearly didn't want to participate. I'm upset that he thinks I should have let rudeness against our little boy slide. Am I the a-hole for confronting this rude woman? Okay, so I don't feel like this is real, because how can this be real? It's so frustrating that they think the other person is rude. Meanwhile, they're repeatedly ringing their doorbell, what they say, like 3 or 4 times or something, and thinking that every single person is going to be interested in this. Yeah, the other person isn't rude. You're being entitled, and you're at their house bothering them. They don't have to do anything. Okay, so we're starting the episode with a BuzzFeed article that says 26 stories about entitled family members that will absolutely make your blood boil. Number 1, my dad answered his phone in the middle of Wicked, the Broadway show in New York City. Whoa, wait a second. Like during the show, in front of everybody. Even just doing that in a school play is incredibly rude, but he did it for bloody Broadway. I was completely mortified, and I immediately told him to turn it off, as did my mum on the other side of me. He told me and us to be quiet, stating that if he could hear, he would be able to finish the call faster. I pleaded that he at least needs to take it outside, to which he just leaned away from me and finished the call. To top it off, when I brought it up in intermission, he chastised me for ruining a perfectly good experience that he had paid for by daring to demean him in public. Oh, the audacity. The only person that's making you look bad in public is you, bro. What are you doing? Like, yeah, I answered my phone in the middle of a Broadway show, but that's somehow your fault? Nah, this is your fault. And yeah, that's right, it would have been rude enough anywhere, let alone here. Okay, we're off to a good start today. Number 2, near the beginning of the pandemic, my mum was paranoid, so she hoarded toilet paper and cleaning supplies. At one point, we had about 70 rolls of toilet paper at home. Well, she'd take me grocery shopping with her. She wanted to be the first in line so we could get there at 7 a.m. to avoid people. She'd get upset even if we were like the 2nd or 3rd in line. One day she found travel-sized hand sanitizers in a random section of the store, and there was no item limit sign, so she took 10. When we got to the checkout, the cashier told her that she could only have 2. Without hesitation, my mum said, "Well, I work as a kindergarten teacher and I need these for my students." She's never worked as a teacher in her entire life. I just kept my mouth shut, and I was so happy the mask hid most of my expression because I was flabbergasted by her lie. The cashier let her have 5. I appreciate that my mum wanted to protect us, but she's too much sometimes. Yeah, wow, and to lie in front of you like that as well. Like, oh, being a good role model. I know I shouldn't laugh, but these are bloody ridiculous. Number 3, we were at the rehearsal dinner for one of my uncles at an upscale restaurant in the Chicago suburbs. The waitress went to take my grandfather's plate, but he wasn't done, so he stabbed her in the hand with his fork. Oh my god, what? And berated her for clearing the table while we were still dining. None of the family, there were over 15 people at the table, said a thing and acted like this was normal and acceptable. They didn't even pause in conversation. My mother told us at home to never do that. I was 9, but it was also somehow acceptable for grandpa to assault someone who was just doing their job. It still kills me that he thought it was acceptable to assault a server and berate them for removing a plate, as if they had no feelings and it was permissible to treat them as such. As an adult, I tip any server extremely well, just because I remember sons are biatches like my grandfather, and I know what servers have to put up with on a daily basis. If you're that server, I'm sorry you had to experience my grandfather's abuse. He's no longer around to harm a new generation of servers. Whoa, yeah, that's a lot worse than being an entitled parent. That's disgusting. And then what happened after that? They said stabbed her in the hand with the fork. So like as in it broke the skin. Oh my god. I know I say it in every episode ever, but what's wrong with people? Number 4, my father-in-law once decided the whole family was going to go to Outback for dinner. 13 people and no reservation. Oh, this one's already so frustrating. He was so furious when they couldn't seat us immediately. The hostess told us they only had booths and they couldn't accommodate a large party at one table, but if we waited a few minutes they would get us some booths next to each other. He got really mad and stormed out. The manager came running out as we were getting into the car, and my father-in-law got really smug for a second, but the manager handed him a card and told him to call that number beforehand next time so he could make a reservation. He was so furious, and as we drove away, he kept on complaining that he thought the manager was coming out to give him a gift certificate for his troubles. What? I'm so happy I found this article. Absolutely no consideration for everybody else here, acting like everything revolves around them. And also, you know that if they treat them like this, that they probably treat so many people like this. Yeah, like all of these today. That's so awful. Number 5, I'll tell my mum something and she'll immediately Google it to prove me wrong if it's something that she doesn't agree with. But if I do that, I'm argumentative and always have to be right. I'm in school for nursing and one of the classes I'm taking is on drug addictions. I told my mum how cocaine has to be refined with kerosene and gasoline to extract it from coca leaves, and she argued with me for 2 days and said that's only the cheap kind. No, mum, all coca plant leaves are soaked in kerosene or gasoline, regardless of the quality of the end product. Wow, but if you try to fact check something, they say that you always try to be right. We see immature parenting stuff like this all the time. Like, why as a parent do you feel like you need to be right about everything here? Or like everything in general? No one is right about everything and nobody knows everything. And when you try to look like you do know everything, you look like even more of an idiot. It's super counterproductive. Number 6 says, my mum's sister, we were on a plane together with her 5-year-old son sitting between us, and he started kicking the chair in front of him kind of hard. I said, hey buddy, don't do that. And she snapped at me. We paid for these seats. He can do what he wants. Right, as if the person in front of us didn't pay for their seat too. Just because you pay to be somewhere doesn't mean you can behave like a jerk. Yeah, and that's a bloody awful thing to teach your kid. Like, oh, we paid for these plane tickets, so you're allowed to do whatever you want. That's like the epitome of an entitled parent. And guaranteed they'll teach their kids stuff like this, and they'll probably grow up to be super entitled, and then they'll be like, oh, why is my son so bloody entitled? Oh yeah, it was my fault. Number 7, when we were moving, my sister-in-law gave us a list of things she wanted of ours, like our couch. We hadn't offered anything or planned on getting rid of those items, so did they assume that you were gonna replace it or something? Here's a list of all the things of yours that I'd like. For real, where do people get off? Like the audacity to even say something like this. Like, hey, I want your couch and other stuff. Yeah, I know you didn't offer it, but you know, can I have it please? Well, to be fair, they probably wouldn't even say please. Number 8 says, every single restaurant we'd ever go to, my mother would have us move tables, sometimes multiple times, because she felt chilly. She'd ask the server why we were seated under a vent and make a show of coughing and pulling on a sweater in July. It was truly like something out of Seinfeld, and I recall feeling incredibly embarrassed as we traversed the dining area with our drinks. Right, so they wouldn't even do it immediately. They do it after you order your drinks. Yeah, that is embarrassing, and some people, for some reason, feel like if they go anywhere, they like need to complain about something, or they need to make it known that something isn't right. We read about a picky eater yesterday, and they were saying that they'd get food brought out to them and everything would be totally fine, but they'd get it sent back like every single time, like to the point where you're not a picky eater anymore. You're like a giant pain for everybody else, like to the point where it's disruptive and unnecessary. And I get the same vibe from this, like, oh, it's a little bit chilly, so we better move. Oh, this table's even worse, so we need to move again. Like absolutely no consideration for everybody else that's there. Yeah, that sucks. Number 9 says, my mum came from extreme poverty, but married my dad, who pulled himself up by his bootstraps and became very wealthy, which is a statistical anomaly and not a sociological theory I endorse. My mum, I guess, eventually forgot where she came from and how people from hard places suffer, or perhaps she didn't want to remember. It became a trend where she'd go through a drive-through of fast food restaurants and she'd verbally abuse the workers. She'd scream and say that they were servants. Oh my god, who needed to wait for her response on her own time? I remember driving through the fast food window and just shaking my head, sobbing and mouthing I'm sorry to the worker, but he was obviously unforgiving of 13-year-old me. I want to find that dude today and explain how mentally ill my mum was, but realistically, no matter her mental health, there's no justification for the slurs that she threw at him. I know I was a kid and I wasn't at fault, but I can't stop the constant guilt. I try to atone for her wrongdoings every day. Yeah, that's straight up revolting. Imagine doing super well, and you weren't just comfortable, you were kind of rich. Imagine instead of being grateful for that position, you treat other people like this, calling fast food workers servants, and by the sounds of this, they said a lot worse. This is such a good example of that quote where people say that money makes you more of who you are. Like if you're a good person, you can be a good person with a lot of money, but if you're an a-hole with money, you can be even more of an a-hole. And yet this person acts like they're better than other people for no good reason and treats people awfully. Yeah, that's not only so cringe, but so sad. Number 10. One night when I visited my mum, she had a little too much wine and she ordered pizza delivery for us. The pizza took forever, and when it did come, they gave us the wrong order. She went ballistic and I was so embarrassed. I mean, I get grumpy when fast food orders get delivered late or aren't right, but I'm still nice to the staff or the drivers. She called them back to tell them that we got the wrong pizza and how useless they were. She said, so we have to wait again another hour for your F up. I was like, oh god, is this the same person? And like the last one we read, there's no justifying behavior like this. Like, yeah, had a little too much wine, but that's not an excuse. Number 11. My grandma went to our local Kroger maybe twice a week or more. Usually she'd buy hundreds of dollars in groceries. This particular time she did her usual and her credit card declined because it was maxed out. She then proceeded to yell at the cashier and me for 15 minutes about how they should just charge it anyway because she was going to pay it anyway. We had to leave when I started crying from embarrassment. My grandpa later came back for the groceries with a different card, apologizing the whole time. Wait, what? So they were embarrassed because their card maxed out? So they decided they were going to lash out at everybody else because they felt embarrassed? It's like these people get in a situation like this and they have options in front of them and they always choose the worst possible option. Like, that's not how you handle a situation like this. Oh, what's that? My credit card maxed out and declined? Well, this is somehow your fault? And yelling at the cashier and their grandchild until they cried from embarrassment? Yeah, they should be ashamed. Yeah, these are really wild posts. I didn't expect them to be this bad. Number 12 says, my mum and I made an appointment at a nail salon. We arrived at the nail salon and ended up waiting 10 minutes while the nail techs finished up with their clients. The salon was probably half full. My mum turned to me and said, this is what they do. They lie to you. They say they have appointments to get you in here just to wait. She didn't even whisper and it was very quiet in the salon. A woman immediately came up to us and started my mum's manicure. Yeah, there's a real distinct theme here. Being very unnecessarily rude to employees. Number 13. When I was in college, I decided to switch majors. My mum proceeded to yell at me and tried to make me keep my first major. I reminded her that I was the one paying for my education and she had no authority to make me, an adult, do anything. She told me she had a right because she gave birth to me. I laughed in her face and I walked away. Yeah, wow, these are unbelievable. We're up to number 13 and there's 26 here, so I might go a little bit faster through these. Number 14. One night I stopped at Arby's with my mum and I went through the drive-thru. They forgot a cheese sauce and an order of fries. Instead of heading inside to ask politely to fix it, my mum parked, got out of her car, then headed to the drive-thru window and started beating on the glass, all while there was a car there waiting for their food. What's the thought process here? Is there one? Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'm gonna go and be awful. Yeah, there can't be a thought process because they obviously don't think they're doing anything wrong and they don't think they're being awful. They just think they're entitled to do stuff like this, which is so concerning. Number 15. Whenever my mum has a technology issue, she starts blaming the damn TV or the damn coffee maker, yet refuses to let me help her 95% of the time. The issue is absolutely her fault and could be fixed with the literal tap of a button. She'll even call a maintenance worker to come to the house before letting me try to resolve the problem. Yeah, and that's another issue as well. Some people like complaining and some people like making issues out of nothing. I don't know what that is, but it definitely is real. Like, yeah, you could literally be asking this person and the problem would be solved, but no, everything has to be a big problem. Number 16. My mum is what I call a pre-Karen, a Karen foremother, if you will. One of the worst things she would do is buy clothing at full price, and I'm talking really expensive department store gowns, hide the tags, go out for a night in them, and then return them. I know a lot of people do this still today, but she would also not give a crap about ripping it or tearing it or staining it, and would come back to return it and raise holy hell, claiming that she took it home and saw the item all trashed. She'd yell at the workers, calling them stupid for letting an item out the door like that, lie her ass off and not only get the item returned at full price, but get coupons for later purchases, which she only used on things she'd keep. She won't return anything calmly, so not only is she scamming, but she berates workers for no reason other than to be a total little biatch and make sure her story sticks? Yeah, and for what? So she can wear some clothes? And they don't feel bad about this? Yeah, I can't believe people are like this. Number 17. My dad had COVID symptoms but refused to take a self-test. Even after my mum tested positive, he also kept going to work as an elementary school bus driver, though he did have to wear a mask at work regardless of whether he was sick or not. He's retired and keeps his income below the level where you'd have to pay taxes, so it's not a money issue. I think he has a misguided loyalty to work, even though nobody would have wanted him there if they knew. I also think he was worried that it would be inconvenient. He just brazened through no matter how much we yelled at him. God, who is this guy? Captain Irresponsible? You're an elementary school bus driver, going on there while you probably have COVID. Yeah, what? All because of their loyalty to work? Oh, that's so infuriating. Number 18. My mum always thinks she's entitled to my money because she birthed and raised me. I was giving her half of my paychecks from the time I was 18 until I was 29 when I bought my own house. I was living with her, so it was fine that I had to pitch in and everything. But here's the kicker. Anytime I got any sort of extra money, she thinks she deserves some of it. A few years ago, I got a $1,500 check from my mortgage company. She demanded that I give her half, which I refused. Good thing, because the check was sent as a mistake and they needed me to pay the money back. Recently, I got a surprise bonus at work. My mum again demanded I give her half because I owe her for raising me. Now I try to keep my income and raises and bonuses a secret so she doesn't demand money from me. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You can't tell them anything about money. Like, money? Give you some money? No, sorry, I don't have any. You're very mistaken, mum. I don't have any money to give you. Number 19. My military army father was on leave from deployment and wanted to take his 4 kids to the YMCA to go swimming. Despite the fact that he didn't have a membership, my mother was a member and had previously enrolled us in summer camps there. So we, the kids, were very familiar with their policies and told him repeatedly before we went that they didn't allow anyone in without a membership. He insisted this was not the case and took us anyway. Of course, they would not let us in without a membership and he refused to sign up for one. To our embarrassment, he proceeded to yell at the poor teenage employee that he could not believe they would treat a member of the armed services this way, though he was the one asking for special treatment. Yeah, I don't have anything to say. The bloody audacity. Number 20. We could never convince my mum that servers only made a couple of dollars an hour in pay. She thought they were undereducated and or stupid and making too much money for their skills. If she could keep my father from seeing, she would pick up all or part of their tips on the way out. Wait, like stealing from the tip jar or something? So they're an entitled thief? Oh, right when you think it doesn't get any worse, it does. I'm impressed by how bad these are. Bad as in entitled and infuriating. It must have been an Ask Reddit post or something. Number 21. My mum always told me to watch how my dates treat waiters or waitresses because it can reveal a lot about their character. My uncle will always talk down to waitresses and can be very handsy. One time I remember him grabbing a girl to pull her on his lap. She was a teenager and we were maybe a group of 11 people. I've never seen anyone move so fast to get out of a room. Now his wife, my aunt, will send all of her food back. Salads, drinks, half an entree, glasses of wine, whatever. We can order the same dish and mine will taste fine, but hers is somehow ruined. It's an absolute nightmare to go out with them. Oh, they sound awful. Ew, no, don't go anywhere near these people. So yeah, the uncle, revolting, and the aunt is what we were talking about earlier, where people feel like they need to make an issue whenever they go somewhere. Like, yeah, guaranteed there's nothing wrong with the food, but they send it back anyway. That's annoying enough, let alone the rest of this post. Number 22 says, my dad grew up in a very traditional, sexist home and unfortunately treats my mum almost like a servant. He's very entitled to her labors and he doesn't show her much gratitude. For example, my mum will prepare dinner for everyone and he'll scoff at it if he has something that he doesn't like in it, like beans. He'll then get up and microwave himself a frozen meal instead. He also never helps make dinner, doesn't help clean up afterwards and leaves his dishes all over the house. What's worse is that he does this sort of stuff in front of guests. When my husband and I visit my parents' house, I almost die of secondhand embarrassment. Wow, that sucks. Are they a good person and a good partner the rest of the time? Or do they suck as much as it sounds like? Like, yeah, no offense, but if it's the second one, people deserve better than a partner like this. And also, even if you did grow up in a very traditional sort of home, like again, it's not an excuse to be a total bloody a-hole. Number 23 says, my brother recently moved out of state. When he came back to visit, he wanted to go out to lunch with our family and our mum got weird. My brother asked us if we'd be okay to go to a local place that he missed, and my mum got really passive-aggressive about the whole thing. She kept saying it was up to my brother and she didn't really care where we went, but then she kept bringing up reasons that she wanted to go somewhere else. It culminated with her accusing my brother of lacking compassion, telling us that we didn't want to celebrate her birthday, which was several months after my my brother's visit. They're bringing up their birthday months later and telling us that she was struggling with her mortality, all because my brother asked to go to a restaurant that he missed. Later, when I tried to talk to her about stuff, she told me our relationship wasn't salvageable since I had deemed it toxic. I've started therapy and my therapist suggested that my mum might be a narcissist. I think she might be right. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. This has been so good. We've only got a couple more. Number 25. My biological dad is a very interesting person. One time we were on holiday in his hometown at a restaurant where his dad used to work at. I was probably about 11 at the time, and he complained to the manager about the food. It ended up being a full-on yelling match with the manager and a couple of other employees. I was absolutely mortified, and I just stood there awkwardly. He then continued to ramble on about poor customer service and quality of food, and he said it was a much better restaurant when his father had worked there. He continued to go on and on about how rude they were on the car ride home, and for a solid 2 or 3 hours after we got home, I sat there on the couch listening to him complain, and I thought, wow, this dude is so petty and entitled. Anyway, I haven't had contact with him since I was 14. So yeah, he was a great dad. Yeah, wow, that's so sad. And I'm sure that people like this don't realize the effect that they have on everybody else. Like, if you only knew how much this upset everybody. The last one, number 26. My parents went on their first cruise in their 60s. It was cheap, so it was likely more crowded and not as high-end as they thought it would be. They complained about everything. The amount of food everyone else on the ship ate, having to wait in line, children doing childish stuff like running around the ship, etc. They seem to forget that some people can't afford anything more than this type of cruise. I don't know when my parents turned into people who they're above the rules they taught us as kids, but it's only gotten worse since. Okay, yeah, that definitely is enough for today. So sad, so frustrating, and so bloody entitled. Let's read something wholesome. Being a pet owner is like being a sugar daddy. You waste all your money on keeping them happy, and the only thing they do is look cute and give you attention sometimes. Yeah, and huge emphasis on the sometimes. Jin is like the epitome of this. I love him so much, and I know he loves me, but he's not that affectionate, and he'll only give you attention when he wants to, and it is the way it is, but it kind of makes me sad. He's so cute though. When you accidentally say love you to your best friend and they say it back. Oh, that's so cute. Oh, I love you too, bestie. That's so adorable. Like, oh, that was an accident, but it was beautiful. Good, you've scrolled for so long you've reached the sanctum of the coned cats. They wish you a nice life. Oh my god, the coned cats are amazing. And thank you, I wish you a nice life as well. Beautiful fluffy fellas. And once again, thank you for watching everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did and you want to see more Entitled Parents episodes, make sure you like and subscribe. And the comment of the day today goes to the cat herd. Time to sit down with my coffee and enjoy the morning, Vincey. You're too kind. I really appreciate the support, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. These are so fun to make. I'm so glad you guys enjoy them. There's many, many, many more to come. And with that being said, make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!